A big thank you to Paid Memberships Pro for sponsoring this video. Paid Memberships Pro is the best free membership plugin for WordPress. If you want to go pro, visit paidmembershipspro.com/Jamie for a special discount. Good morning, this is a mega compilation of the 10 best famous websites that I've recreated this year, including but not limited to Tom Cruise, Taylor Swift, Harry Styles, Nike.com, Peter McKinnon, Yoga with Adriene, James Popsys, Austin Kleon, a very famous charity website, and TechCrunch.com. If you're feeling brave, watch the whole thing, or there are chapter markers down below. Let's get to it. So I'm going to start by picking the colour of the header at the top, that sort of mauve colour, and I'm using the ColorZilla colour picker, which is a free extension to pick that colour. And now I'm going to go and create a brand new page, which is going to become my home page. And I end up here putting the Taylor Swift video directly into this. I think I could, and I think I ended up using the cover block eventually. So now I'm going to set that home page as the home page of my website. So go to Settings and Reading and select that as the front page, the home page of my site. And now we've got the structure kind of set up. So I'm going to go to Edit Site because I want to edit that home page, and here it is. So what I'm going to do here essentially is get rid of everything in this page. So I'm just going to remove the group block, which has everything in it, and all I'm going to do is put back the post content block. So all I'm going to be left with is the header, the footer, and the post content. So I've got a nice clean page to work with. And there we go, there's my post content coming into that home page. So now it's time to edit the header. So I go Template Parts Header, and this is the current header that comes as default with the 2023 theme. And I made the decision early on that I needed to change the layout. Now I did think about using the row block here, but I think that would have been problematic at the moment. So I decided to use the columns block because essentially the Taylor Swift header has 3 columns. The left-hand column with navigation and a button, the middle column with the logo, and the right-hand column with those social icons. So now I'm going to actually start to put some content in here. I start by adding the site logo, and I've grabbed the Taylor Swift logo. So I'm just going to upload that. Now I saved it as a graphic, primarily because you can actually align site logos. You can't at the moment align site titles. So I'm going to save that and upload it to the middle column and then just change the size. Now in the left-hand column, I'm going to add the navigation block. So I search for navigation after clicking on the plus sign. Now I don't have these pages created, so I'm just creating them at the moment as custom links essentially. And now I'm going to set the background color of the column. So I click on the top level columns block over on the left in the list view, and then I just put in that color, which I've grabbed from the Taylor Swift website. Next up, I'm going to align things. So I click on the top level and choose Align Middle. And now I'm going to add this social icons block over in that right-hand column. I have a quick look to see what Taylor Swift is using. And then I replicate that quickly by adding those icons. And then in a second, I'm going to change the background color of them. To change the background color, just make sure you click on the top level social icons block, and then that setting will appear over in the block settings panel. Here I'm guessing at the grey color. I could have grabbed the precise color, but I just guessed at the color. Mine's slightly too dark, I think. And then the final thing I'm doing here is just to remove any margin to the top and to the bottom of that columns block, because we have some white space at the moment. Now it actually turned out that that didn't remove all the margin from the top above the header, so I added a little bit of CSS in a few minutes to actually get rid of that. You'll see here there's still some margin actually above and below it. So here we go. This is where I nabbed the class. I'm working pretty quick at this point, so I wasn't really digging too deeply into these classes, but I sort of guessed what they would be doing, and this is where I added some CSS to try and remove that padding, and that seemed to work quite nicely. And then the final thing I think I did here is to change the block spacing between those social icons. So again, I made sure to click on the top level social icons block, and then you can change the block spacing. That's the space between each social icon. Now at this point I realized I had an issue because I still needed to add a button next to my navigation block. So I ended up actually adding a row block within the first column. Then I could put the navigation followed by my button, as you see me doing here. So I've added the row block, then the navigation block within it, then the button block next to that, and now I'm just styling that button block. Click on the top level buttons block and you can actually add some vertical and horizontal padding to it. And there we go. That's my button next to my navigation block. But the key bit was to put it within the row, within the column. Here I am just adjusting a bit more padding to get the padding a bit smaller on the top of my header. And that's a bit more like it. Then it was time for the second section on the page, and I discovered something really strange here. So the way the Taylor Swift website was actually built was using graphics. So I assumed it would be text with a background and multiple elements within it. Actually, each section under the top video was just a graphic. And the way they handled the mobile aspect is they had a mobile graphic and they had a desktop graphic. So I thought I'd replicate this. There's a number of ways I could have done this, but I actually decided to use one of our free plugins, which is called Mobile Blocks, which lets you have completely different content depending on whether the device is a desktop or it's a phone. Here's the two images you can see. The one on the left is designed for desktop, the one on the right is designed for mobile. Here's the plugin called Mobile Blocks, which I'm just installing. You'll see I'll activate it here and then insert it into the page. And essentially you have two tabs, desktop content on the left and mobile content on the right, and you can have completely different content in each section. So here I am loading up the desktop content and the mobile content and just making a few settings to make sure it's going to work. I think I ended up here adding it to the group block so I can actually change the padding and also change the spacing. And there we go, there's the result. It seemed to work pretty well, and that's what it looked like on mobile. So that kind of works. It's a really strange way to do it. I'm surprised the Taylor Swift website does it this way, but it's kind of a fun experiment to try and replicate it. I guess it's a really quick and easy way to build a site if you're just a graphic designer and you don't want to use any kind of code at all or use the block editor. You can just add images and a plugin like Mobile Blocks to create these layouts very quickly. It's not ideal though for lots of different reasons, but here we go. At this point, what I'm doing is just replicating that process for the rest of the page essentially, because that's the way the whole page has been designed. Now my time was almost up at this point, so I wanted to finish off by editing the footer. So I just went to the footer template and I made a few changes here. I added the navigation block below it. I made a huge mistake here in terms of I just overwrote the existing navigation block instead of creating another menu. But there we go, we live and learn. But essentially what I'm doing here is I'm just replicating the navigation block over on the right, the Taylor Swift footer. So I'm adding the navigation block to my site, changing the background color of the footer. And then you'll see in a second I'm going to add some social icons to the footer as well, in the same way I did before. Now I should have just either created those as a reusable block, or I should have gone and copied them, but I actually went off and recreated them all again, which took a bit more time. I only had a few seconds left at this point. I'm doing the normal stuff though. I'm changing the block spacing, and then I'm going to change the background color and the icon color. And then to finish off with, I think I just changed the alignment in a second. And then I finished off by changing the padding and I think possibly the margin as well at the bottom of the footer. And here we go, here's my finished result. Mine's on the left, the original site's on the right. You can see as we scroll down. Now these other sections are going to look pretty much identical because they're just using graphics, so I could just literally take those graphics and put them into the editor. Good morning. Peter Mckinnon is one of the best photographers on YouTube and his channel is completely awesome.
Lots to tell there, lots to make, lots to create. That's all coming. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
He also has a really, really beautiful website. So in today's rapid website recreations, I thought I'd take his website and try and recreate it in just 30 minutes. It's a beautiful website. Let's get into it. Here's the website I'm going to try and recreate in 30 minutes. It's beautiful. I really love it. And you'll see it's got these menus along the top here. It has a little subtle logo up here. As you scroll, it's got this nice parallax effect as you scroll down. It's got this Ford GT here. It looks very, very beautiful. So I think I've got an idea on how I might be able to recreate that. So here is my plan, and like all good plans, it's written on the back of an envelope. So number one, I want to create the structure on the website, and I'm going to do that primarily by building my navigation and also setting the home page. Then I also, once I've built the structure, I need to design the home page, because the home page has a very different layout to all the other pages. So I need to do the home page second, but I must do the structure first. Then number three, after the home page, I want to do the kind of sub pages templates. I want to get those laid out. So as ever, on the left-hand side, we've got my website, which is just a blank version of WordPress running the 2023 default theme. And then over on the right-hand side, we've got the Peter Mckinnon website, which I'm going to try and recreate in 30 minutes. I'm going to start by creating the structure, and I'm going to do that primarily just by building some blank pages, just these, the shop page, the collabs page, the about page, and the contact page. So I'm just going to go plus new here, and I'm literally going to create some new pages. So we've built that. Now I want to go off and actually create this structure along here on our navigation using the full site editor. So back to dashboard, appearance and editor here. And once you're in the editor, just click on the W in the top left of your screen. That'll take you to the site editor menu on the left here, where you'll see templates and template parts. We're interested in template parts, so just click on that. And then we just want to go to the header template part here. Now, if we look at the list view, we can see what we've actually got here. We've got a group block with a row block with a site title block with a navigation block. But actually the navigation block at the moment doesn't really consist of a menu, so we need to create a menu to kind of put in that navigation block. So you come down here over on the right, just make sure you've got the navigation block selected and just click on create new menu. So we just now need to add the page items that we've added before. So we just search for shop. Now I've published these pages, which is why they're showing here shop, and we need collabs. So you just search for them and WordPress will find them. So I've got the structure in place. It looks nothing like we need, but that's fine. We've got the menu items along the top here, and we've now got the home page as the home page. So I think it's time to now try and design this home page. So actually looking at this, I did think I was going to use the cover block for all of this, but it's not going to work because these are actually proper parallax, whereas the cover block, in the cover block, you have a fixed background, which doesn't really do this effect how I want it. So I'm going to have to do a search around and see whether there's a Gutenberg block out there that will let me do kind of this subtle parallax effect. Let's go and have a look. Okay, after a bit of searching, I found this. Now, I've never seen this before. It's called Parallax Effects for Gutenberg. It's not called that, but it's for Gutenberg, and it seems to get good reviews from what I can see. Hasn't been updated for a while, but I think it just uses JavaScript, not any kind of third-party library, but we can check on that. But I think the thing to do is get it out and see whether it works in the first place. So I've installed the plugin, and let's see how it works. I think it comes as a block, so maybe if I just search for parallax, there it is, parallax section. So I'm guessing it just adds sections into your pages, like so, and then gives you some settings, I'm hoping here. Here it is, yeah, cool. So yeah, we get that nice little parallax. Let's just see if we, yeah, it's full width by default. I'm suspecting I can change the background image. So I'm just gonna save this background image over here and just run a really quick test to see whether this is gonna actually fly for me. So background here, click on the plus, and I think hopefully I can change the picture. Yeah, cool. So let's upload that picture. I'm gonna change the background opacity. I guess I wanna, doesn't have so much. Yeah, that's better. It's got a little bit of gradient on it, or opacity. Yeah, so now we have a nice subtle parallax. So the secret sauce to get this to sit flush at the top here, I think, is to use the blank page template. So you just come to templates here, click on page, and then we want to choose the blank page template. That will get rid of anything from the page. Basically, it's just going to show the content in the template. You will notice that there's this white space running along the top here. Now you can change this now just using the site editor in 2023. By default, it'll add a little bit of padding to the top of your blocks. To change it, just go to global styles, which you need to go into the templates to actually see. So hopefully one day soon, this will be more obvious where to find it, but it's that little icon there. Just click on that. And there are some presets set for the layout. So then we want to go to layout. Now it might look like the top has no padding on it, but it actually does. So just force that by putting 0 in, and that'll get rid of any padding from the top of that page. So time to build out this page. All I need to do is delete the existing blocks, which I've already done from this parallax section. And then I'm going to insert the columns block just so I can lay this out. 2 columns. This left-hand column, I'm actually going to put the site logo. Right-hand column over here, I'm going to put the navigation block. And then the other thing I'm going to do is once they're in place, I'm going to align them to the middle. Now with the navigation block, you'll see it actually needs a bit of block spacing. So I'm just going to introduce some block spacing like so. And then the final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to align these to the top. So this little icon up here, you can actually align the content to the top, and you see it's now aligned nicely to the top. And the final thing I'm going to do here is actually add a little bit of padding to the left and to the right of my menu. Okay, so my attempt is on the left, looking pretty good. This font is a bit heavy. Theirs is lighter, Peter's is lighter, so I can change that in the typography settings. But now we move on to this section down here, which I'm just going to replicate what I've done. Essentially, I'm going to add the parallax section, a background image, and some text over the top of it. So let's start just by fixing up this text here. It's a little bit bold, whereas Peter's is much lighter and nicer. So I'm going to go down to typography, make sure you selected the navigation block, and just choose appearance here. And now you can select here different appearances. Now you'll see there it's gone nice and light. So that's cool, that's done. Let's go back to this next section here, and I'm just going to duplicate my first section for speed because I've got some settings in there kind of that I've already created that I don't need to recreate. There's my second section, and now I can jump in here and actually just remove some of this stuff in here. You'll see it put the default text back in here, but that's all right, we can change that. The next thing we need to do is just align the text in the center. We're going to edit that text in a minute, but first I'm going to replace the image. So click on the block settings, click on the little pencil, click replace here, and now we need our Ford car. So I've changed the text here so it's got the right text. Styles aren't quite right though, so let's go and fix those up. The typography is still probably a little bit small, so we can make those a little bit bigger here. And we probably want it thinner again, so let's play with that. That's pretty nice. We've got this big gap here. I want to make this text yellow here, so again, we can just do that by changing here. Now I'm not choosing the exact text, but that's probably close enough. And it looks like it's bold to me. Is it bold? Let's make it bold and see what that looks like. We have this big gap here. So this is where we look at line height here. So choose that one there, choose line height, and we want to reduce that down, you see, and now we've got them more squished. So we're pretty close. Actually, letter spacing isn't quite right there as well. So we should be able to change that, I think. Yeah, letter spacing here. So let's add a bit more letter spacing between the letters. Pretty good. And now it's just a question of repeating the process. Next up, we've got this really cool YouTube section here with a background video playing, and we are going to use the core Gutenberg cover block for this because that supports background video. I already have a video pre-prepared, and this will just play without any sound, and I just need to make this full width, I think. Here we go, it'll start to play. Now you might see some discrepancy between the parallax section block and the core Gutenberg blocks. It's just an editor thing. It'll look fine once it's actually published. So I've added the text and spaced it just like I did in the previous block, and it looks pretty good. And then the final thing I need to add is just this section down here, which I'm going to do with the heading block and the social icons block. So I think I'm going to actually put this in a group block. That will just give me a bit of margin control because I don't want it flush to the block above it. So I'm going to add the group block. This is new. This is so you can choose the layout you want. I just want that layout. And then all I need in here is a heading block. So I add the heading block. Type my words. I will style these in a second, but within the top level group block rather, you can actually come in here and you can set a top margin. So I want to go margin here, and then I want to go this option here and just add a top margin. You see how I'm just adding a bit of space now. Then I want to align it using our little align tool up here. And I also want to style it because I want it thinner. So I'm going to go appearance, basically what we did before. So, and then I want to go thin text, and that looks pretty cool. It's not quite right. Probably want a bit of letter spacing actually. Let's add a bit of letter spacing as well. Now we could do this globally as well for our headings, but I haven't done that today. And then underneath this, I'm just going to add the social icons block. So probably YouTube. And I will style these as I go. Actually, no, I'll style them at the end. So I'm just going to put in false links today. So that's YouTube. And then I'm going to add another one after this. So just make sure you click on the social icons block to add new ones. And then we want, well, we've got Instagram, I guess. And again, I'm going to put in a false link here. And I will just repeat the process for those. But before I do that, I'm just going to show you how you style them. So you can change the icon color here. That's how you change the icon color, and the background color as well. So I've just got my nice icons there, and that looks pretty good to me. I'll probably want a bit more. No, the spacing's all right actually. So I'm just going to add the other icons, and that'll pretty much be finished then. Here is the finished page. My attempt is on the left. The official website, the real website, is on the right. And I'm pretty happy with it. It looks pretty good. That parallax section is pretty cool. It's very subtle, but it's nice. It's not too crazy. So as we scroll down, you can see we've got parallax working there. There's Paris coming up. See the parallax working. Then we've got the motion graphics section. Again, looking pretty cool. That little Pete's Part Life section looks, the text isn't bold enough, but I could have rectified that pretty easily. And then we've got this cool YouTube section here. His is a bit higher than mine. I could have changed that in the cover block, but it looks pretty good. And then finally at the bottom, we've got this little social icons follow section. So all in all, for 30 minutes work, or just under actually, I'm pretty happy with how things turned out. I'd probably give myself 7.5, 8.5 out of 10 that time. There was some quite challenging stuff. On the left is my website. It's blank. All I've done is installed the free Astra theme and the free Spectra plugin. On the right is the Nike.com website that I'm going to try and recreate in 30 minutes. Let's go. So I'm going to start by adding some pages along the top here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to appearance menus, and I'm going to go main menu. Here, that's the name of the menu. Click create menu. Then over on the right here, I'm just going to add these into that menu. So I want all of these that I've just created, add them to the menu. They're in the wrong order at the moment, I'm guessing. Yeah, they are. So let's just drag them up and down so we can get them in exactly the order we want. Men, women, kids. So top to bottom here equals left to right on your website. And then I just need to select this down here as the primary menu. And I'm going to set that as the off-canvas menu as well, which is the mobile menu. So now we should have, if we go back here, we should have our menu along the top here. Don't worry about the design at this point. Now I need to create the secondary menu. So again, I'm going to use the same process. I'm going to go to pages and add new. And I'm just going to create these as pages. So find, store. And then I'm going to go off to my menus again here, and I'm going to create that as my secondary menu. You'll see there's a place in Astra where we can set a secondary menu. Now that I don't think we'll show yet, but that's absolutely fine because we're going to add that using the header builder in a few seconds. So we're going to start to build out this header first, and we're then going to add these sections down here. And you'll see in the header builder here, it comes with this really nice header builder. So we're going to start to recreate this header, and I'm going to add a logo up here. Now I should have a logo saved to my desktop, which I do. I'm just going to add in the header builder up here, I'm going to add my secondary menu, and that will add the secondary menu along the top here. Right, time to build out this page now. First thing we need to do is get rid of the page title from showing. So with Astra, you can actually hide the page title just by that little icon there. Now we're going to start on this section over here. I'm going to nab that text, and I'm going to use the Spectra blocks to build this with. Now they have a whole bunch of fantastic blocks, like the container block, which uses Flexbox, which gives you tons of power that you can actually create lots of layouts with it. So I'm going to use that for many of the things I'm doing. They've also got this really nice advanced heading block though. And another block I think I'm probably going to use down here is this post carousel block, which does this nice post carousel. But what's nice about it is you can choose what kind of things you carousel. In my case, I'm going to want to carousel WooCommerce products. So I'm going to start by adding the container block. It's a 1-column container block, so I choose that option there. Now within that, all I really need is this paragraph block. So I'm just going to add the paragraph block in there, add my paragraph in there, and I'm going to align it center. Let's look at the list view, and we've got the container block up there. One of the great things about the container block is you get tons of controls. So you have lots of Flexbox controls, which are down here in Flex Properties, and you can change the direction of them, how you align them within the box as well, how you justify content, and how they wrap as well on mobile devices. And then you have these container settings. So by default it'll be full width. Full width is great because we want this grey bar to stretch all the way across the page. And again, with this, the container block, you can add a color, you can add a gradient color, you can add photo, or you can add a video. So I've just added this light grey color to my container block up here, and there you go, there's the background for it. So now we have one block, the container block. Within there we have the paragraph block. It's time to move on to this section down here. Again, I'm going to use a container block to house all this stuff today because that gives me control over the width and a few other things that we might need. So I'm going to just go click, add new, add a container block. This again is a single column. So let's add the single column in. We're also probably going to use margin a little bit in this as well, I think. So I'm going to add a block here. Now there is also a cool block that they have in Spectra called the heading block. This gives you more control over your headings than you would normally get. So I'm going to add this into my page, paste my text in here, and I want to change the font. And that's one of the nice things you can do with the heading block. So you can change the typography. So I'm going to guess at this. I'm not going to get particularly close to it. I'm going to use pop-ins. You can also change the font weight here. So we're getting close. We want to change the alignment of this as well in a second, but we also want to, I think, change the size of it. You can either move this little slider here, or you can punch in your normal sizes here. And you can also do things like change the letter spacing, all sorts of stuff that you might want to think about doing as well. But that's okay for now. And then underneath that one, I'm just going to add probably just a paragraph block and just hit a paragraph block in there because that's all we need. And I am going to make that paragraph block bold. Right, and under this, I'm going to add the Spectra buttons block, which is really cool. It gives me lots of controls. It'll just add it in for me. But I can style them. I'm not going to link them, but if you want to link them, you just click on them and you can link them. But I can change the styles of these. So for example, I can change the background color and the border. So let's add a little radius to each of these, maybe 20. What's nice about this is, well, you can copy the styles between them just very easily like that. So underneath here, we're actually going to add another container block. So let's click on the plus sign. We're going to use the container block. For this video, it's a single column. We're going to add some margin above it. So you see you can add some margin. I'll just add a little bit of space there. But why we really love this is because we can, in style, in background, we can add a background color, gradient, image, or video. We want a video. Now there's a couple of nice things here. A minimum height. So we can actually set a minimum height for my little video there. It's full width, so that's kind of cool. But what we can also do in advanced here, we can actually have responsive conditions. This means we can decide whether this shows on a tablet or on a mobile. I'm going to say I don't want this to show on a mobile phone because I don't want to use up people's mobile phones' bandwidth when they're viewing my website. So to recap, my website that I'm building from scratch is over on the left. The official Nike website is over on the right. They're not identical, but I think mine looks pretty great actually. I'm pretty happy with it so far. We need to move on to this section down here with this lovely post carousel, and I have an idea about how I might accomplish that using the Spectra blocks, because there is a block comes with Spectra called the post carousel block, which I've seen before, which is this one here. Now by default when I click on it, it's going to bring in your posts, but actually in the settings over here you can tell it to bring in your products. You see I can say what post type do we want. I don't want posts, I want products, and that's WooCommerce products. I've pre-installed WooCommerce and I've pre-installed some dummy products, and there we go, there's my products coming in. But what's really nice about it is you can configure it. In carousel down here, you can actually change how it behaves, which is cool. I'm okay with that at the moment, but in content, you can actually turn off what you show. So we want to turn off everything essentially, the excerpt, everything, and also the read more link. All we want is the little photographs that are now carouseling across our page. Right, for speed, I've just duplicated the existing block up here. I do want to make a couple of changes actually, because at the moment my post carousels are auto sliding and I don't actually want that to do. I don't want it to auto play for either of them. So I'm going to turn that off here in autoplay settings. In this one as well, I've just added quickly to show the title, and then I've styled it here in here where I can actually set the font size here. Now I've gone a little bit small, so let's go a bit bigger. And that's my title. I don't think I can show the price, but that's okay. I've got close enough. We want to move on to this section down here. Let's make this wider so you can see what this actually looks like. And for this, we're really going to utilize the Flexbox properties of the container block. So all we need to do is add the container block as we've done before, but this time we're going to choose the 3-column layout, which is this option just here. And there we go, it's set it. But if we look at actually what we've built in the list view, we've got the top level container, but 3 containers within it. Why we want to do that is because we can set a background image for each column, each container block. And then we can use the Flexbox properties to do things like align the buttons. There's just 3 things to do to get this layout working. The first is we need to add a background image to each container. So you click on style here and then click on the little image icon and choose your photo. You'll see that's very squishy, and that's because Flexbox, or that box, will collapse to the size, the default size. So we need to actually increase the size of that. So we come to general, and you'll see in general we can set a minimum height. So it's really up to you what height you put in. There's a very useful setting when you're doing your other containers, which is this one, equal height. If you use that, then all the other containers will be the same height as each other. And all that's left to do is to add these little buttons into that container block. Now, this is one of the big advantages of the container block using Flexbox, because we can position elements within it. So I'm just going to add the standard buttons block in here, like so, and I'm going to go shop women's. And the bit I really want to show you is this ability in Flexbox to actually control where that goes within it. So we come down to where we go. Let's go general and flex properties. This is the magic source here. You can see here we can justify content. So I could align it at the bottom there. So let's change the style of it quickly. So we want that sort of off-white color, and we want the text to be black. So this is where we're at. Mine's on the left, looking pretty good. I'm really happy with it. The Nike website, the official website's on the right. Let's scroll down. That's not exactly the same in terms of style, but you know, in terms of functionality, and they both look fantastic. I think my site's looking really great, and I've got those boxes working as well. For this section here, I'm actually going to cheat a bit. I'm going to use one of our plugins, which is Storefront Blocks, and we have a block that comes with Storefront Blocks called the category block. So I'm going to try and find that here. I've added it to this site. It just lets you add your categories in a nice way, because I couldn't find one in the core WooCommerce blocks that does it nicely. So these are all the blocks that come with Storefront Blocks, and I just want the square grid there, and that should load in my categories. Now, it's not identical to the Nike site because it doesn't carousel, but it looks pretty good, and it does the same thing. It will link off to those categories. And then we've just got these 2 other sections. For this one, I'm just going to use another container block with a Flexbox, and this one, I'm not sure I can do that, so I might just ignore that one. And then that's just 4 columns. So I'm just going to finish those off now. Let's start by this section here. So again, I'm going to add a container block. Let's add the container block in. The container block does so much heavy lifting, and for this one, I just want 2 columns, so I select that option just there. And that sets my 2 columns, and it's the same process that we ran before. Essentially, we're going to choose a background image and then add this bit of text here, and then add the buttons, and then using the Flexbox settings, we're going to align them. So at this point, my 30 minutes ran out. I didn't quite get things finished. I'll show you the result in a minute. I'm pretty happy with it, but this is the boxes I've actually just created, and I did it in exactly the same way. I just created a container block with 2 containers within it, set the background image, added some text on the button, and then aligned it. And for this section down here, I kept things really simple. You'll see this section here, basically it's just 4 columns. I'm pretty happy with things, so things have gone pretty well. I'll probably give myself a 7.5 out of 10. The Nike site on the right, I think mine looks pretty cool. There's my header. I could probably give a little bit more space above and below it. I've got the video working nicely, again using the container block. Then I've got this really cool post carousel working nicely, and again this is great because you can use posts or custom post types, I think, but in this case I'm used WooCommerce products. I've got this section working nicely down here. It looks very similar. If I expand theirs a little bit, you'll see it's very similar, and again that is using the container block that comes with Spectra. It's really powerful, especially because it supports Flexbox. It's built using Flexbox, so you can do cool things like that in terms of the alignment. This section I cheated a bit with using one of our plugins, and then down here again we're using the container block that comes with Spectra, super powerful. And down here I just use another container block. So overall we've got a finished website in just over 30 minutes. Let's just check what it looks like on mobile. As I resize this, you'll see how that video has gone as well, and there's loads more mobile settings that you get with Spectra as well. For example, if you want the headings to be smaller on a mobile, you can do it up here. You'll see these three little icons for desktop, tablet and mobile phone. So let's say I want that to be smaller on a mobile phone. I can click on that little icon, come over to font size here, resize the font size down. So for 30 minutes, I'm very, very, very happy. My site, I think on the left, looks absolutely fantastic. I think it looks like a really professional website and really just as good as the Nike website, if I'm honest. In 30 minutes, it's amazing what you can do with WordPress and some great tools like Spectra and also the Astra theme. I've actually cheated a little bit at the finish here. This little search box in the Pro version of Astra, you can actually do nice rounded gradients. So the Pro version gives you a little bit more finessing, I guess, and functionality like that. But from top to bottom, there's my page. There's my big hero at the top, looking great. There's my video. And then we've got these lovely post sliders working great. We've got these nice container boxes. That's our plugin. I cheated on that one. And some more container boxes. So overall, I'm really, 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 really happy. Actually, before I dive into it, this is future me, so I've just dived into it and it went pretty well. This is what you're going to learn today if you watch the entirety of this video. Number 1, how to set up block theme templates the right way. Number 2, how to create beautiful custom grids just using the core Gutenberg blocks. Number 3, how to access and use global styles in block themes. And number 4, how to style shortcodes. Let's go. So over on the left is my website, just a freshly pressed version of WordPress, just running the 2023 theme. And over on the right is the official Tom Cruise website. It's just a one-pager, and I'm going to start by creating the structure on my site, and specifically I'm going to start here by setting up the front page template. So what I'm doing, I'm coming into templates, clicking on the plus new up here, and here I'm going to choose the front page template. What we're doing is basically setting up the structure of the website. Now all I'm going to put into this template is the post content block. So only the content of my homepage will be pulled into that template. No header, no footer. And now it's time to go and design my homepage itself. This is the only page on my website, so I'm just going to go to pages. I'm going to call it home, but I'm not going to display the page title. And now we're going to start to build out the page. And I'm going to use the cover block for the first hero section along the top. And I'm just going to choose the background image, and I'm going to make it full width here. And then I'm going to stretch it deeper. And then I'm going to type the words watch trailer. And then I'm going to position those words by clicking on the cover block itself and choosing the little matrix picker. And you'll see it now goes bottom right. Then I'm going to change the text color. And then finally, I'm going to lower the opacity on the cover block. Next up, I'm going to publish the page. And the next step is super important. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set that page as the front page of my website. So I'm going settings, reading. I'm coming to the top and I'm choosing a static page, and I'm selecting my home page as the front page of the website. So here's the site. It's looking pretty good. I've got a bit of an issue with too much white space along the top. I'm going to fix that up in a bit, but I'm going to start by building out those 3 columns underneath. This is a really neat trick on how to do this quickly. So what I'm going to do here is add the columns block in first, and then within each column, I think I'm just going to add cover blocks. So I'm going to start with a 2-column layout, even though it's a 3-column layout. Within the first column, I'm going to put the cover block in here. And what I'm going to do is get the first column right and then duplicate it. So here's the first column with my cover block. I'm going to type my words in this case, the words are coming soon. And I'm going to style those words in a second. But first I'm going to position them using the little matrix picker, just like I did before. Click on the block settings icon, and I'm going to change the color to white. I'm going to put that little icon after it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the opacity color of that cover block. So we're getting pretty accurate. And once I'm happy, I'm going to click on the list view, and I'm simply going to duplicate that 3 times. So now we're going to have our card layout done. It's not going to be perfect because we've got an extra column, so I'm just going to delete that. Now it's time to change the padding between. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to change the block spacing between each of those columns. So we can be pretty precise on this. I'm actually going to put in the actual pixel amount in here. The same with the margin above as well. I'm going to change the margin, and I'm going to put in my own number in here. So I'm pretty happy with that, and you can also see as I squish it tighter how it automatically flexes on mobile. So it'll just work on mobile out the box because we're just using core WordPress blocks. And now it's simply a case of just replacing each image with the correct image and changing the text as well, so it's the correct text. And finally, I just need to replicate that little footer at the bottom, and I'm going to use the group block for that, or a variation of it called the row block. So I'm just adding the group block in first, and over in the block settings, I'm actually going to transform that into a row block. And the row block uses Flexbox, so we can do all sorts of whizzy stuff with it, which is what I'm about to show you, hopefully. So I'm just going to set the background color to start with, and you'll see it over on the right in the block settings panel. I can actually change the margin top and bottom, so I'm just going to remove any margin along the top, so it's now fitting nicely with our bottom card elements. And then I just need to put some text in it, so I'm going to add the paragraph block in first. Then I'm just going to type the words in that I need in the footer. So I think I just need to style those words. So I'm going to make them smaller over on the right in the block settings panel. And I also want to make them lighter. So I'm going to click on appearance. And now you see in appearance, I can choose the light option, which is much closer to the Tom Cruise website. And then finally, this is one of the beauties of Gutenberg using Flexbox, that we have these lovely options for layout. So I'm going to choose the option that has text on the left and blocks on the right. So I'm going to add the social icons block, which is a standard block that comes with WordPress. I'm going to start by adding Instagram as my first social icon. So I'm just going to search for Instagram, click on it. Now I'm going to put a link in. Now I'm not putting in the correct link today. You just put a link to your Instagram account. And then finally, I'm going to style it. I'm going to change the icon color to white, and I'm going to change the background color to black. And there's my little icon. Now I'm just going to replicate that and add the other social icons. And next up, I just need to change the spacing between my little social icons. So I click on the block settings and come to block spacing. And finally, I want to add a little bit of padding to the left and the right of my row block. So again, back to block settings. Just make sure you select the row block over in the list view. So here's the site. It's looking pretty good, but we have an issue. We have too much white space along the top. The 2023 theme adds a little bit of padding. So we're going to go and fix that up now. So click on Edit Site in your admin toolbar. Takes you back into the site editor, click into any template. We're heading over to Global Styles. Come to the top right, click on the Global Styles icon. Then you click on Layout and you'll see there's a top and bottom padding that's added to the 2023 theme. Just change that, reduce it down, and click Save. So here's my page, looking pretty spot on. I haven't changed all the text, but that wouldn't take long at all. The final thing I need to do is get this little pop-up working, and I'm going to use a free plugin called WP Video Lightbox to do this. It's a really, really simple plugin to use. They just give you a short code and you simply replace the video ID with your video ID. So that's what I've done here. Let's go and check it out. So here's my finished page. Click on Watch Trailer and look at that. It's working absolutely beautifully, and there's Tom doing Tom's thing. And there's one final thing I want to do, which is change the minimum height of each of my cover blocks so they're more in line with Tom's website. So I've clicked on block settings here and I'm just going through each cover block and I'm just changing the height of them in the block settings panel to 300. And there's my finished site. Mine's on the left, Tom's is on the right. Let's stretch them and have a look. This is Tom's website, pretty nice. And there's my website over on the left. Took about 15 minutes in the end. So actually I'm really, really happy with how things turned out. Good morning. In today's 30-minute rapid website recreation challenge, I'm going to try and recreate this beautiful photography website by James Popsys. Here's a famous YouTube photographer, one of my favorites actually, very laconic and funny. This is actually built on Squarespace, so it's an interesting challenge. It also has some interesting technical challenges, one of which is this left-hand vertical menu that is sticky. So as I scroll down this page, this menu over here, this navigation remains stuck to the top. Also, when you click on these images, they open into these full screen, well, almost full screen, beautiful photography images. So I'm going to attempt this challenge just using core Gutenberg, try not to use any plugins. I might need a couple actually, but we'll see how we go. And I'm going to use the 2023 default WordPress theme, and that will enable me to use the full power of site editing. So as ever, over on the left is my clean WordPress website, just using WordPress. And over on the right is a screenshot of the James Popsys website, the website I'm going to try and recreate. In simple terms, my plan is to create a new page template for this layout over here on the left, and then change the layout completely so I have a vertical left navigation. I'm going to try and use the sticky position attribute that is now in Gutenberg to make this sticky. That is coming into WordPress 6.2 as well, so that'll just be rolled out. For these, I'm going to use posts. So each of these photos is actually going to be a post, which I'm going to customize so we hide stuff when we actually go and view the post itself. So the first thing I need to do is go and create these as pages over here on the left. I'm just going to create these as pages. I won't put any content in them for now. And then I just need to go and create all these as posts and add a featured image for each post. Okay, so I've created all those posts very quickly. Well, not that quickly, but here they all are. And you'll see I've just added a post for each one. And for each one, there is a bit of content because I want to show you something. But for each one, fundamentally, all I've done is add a featured image because that's actually all we're really going to display on them. I've also added those pages as well. What we're doing here really is building the skeleton of the website. If we go and look at it, we'll see it's still kind of what you'd expect from WordPress. It's still just a classic blog to start with. Our challenge now is to turn it into this. So let's dive into the site editor and start to redesign this home page. So I go edit site at the top here. That'll bring me into my page templates. I click onto templates and I'm actually going to utilize this one here, the home page template, which is now with the 2023 theme. Super useful. Lets you customize the home page. And so I'm going to edit this, click on edit. And now I can just redesign this page pretty much any way I like. Let's click on the list view to see what we've got to start with. So we have a traditional header, which I don't want actually, so I'm going to remove that in a minute. Then we have this group down here, and in there will be a number of blocks. The most important one for our purposes today are going to be the query loop block, and we also have a footer as well. Now, the James Popsys website is showing us 2 columns over here on the right, but actually that's because I've squished it. This is what it looks like on a full screen desktop, which is actually 3 columns. That is useful to know because I'm going to use 3-column layout in a few seconds. So you can actually see we've got a 3-column layout already in our group layout here. So I could leave that, but actually I'm going to just delete it. Let's just delete everything from this page essentially. I'm going to delete the header as well. So I'm removing the header. So I'm basically starting with a blank canvas. I could remove the footer as well. In fact, let's do that. So we just start with a completely nice clean canvas. And now we can lay this out however we like essentially. So I'm going to start by adding a columns block because essentially I want 2 columns, this left-hand column over here, and then actually this is just 1 column. We're going to use the query loop block itself to add those 3 columns within that column though. So I'm going to start by adding the columns block. I'm just going to type in columns and that will find the columns block. And then I want to choose this layout here, which will give me that sort of layout I need actually. Now we can change those width of those columns if we wanted to be more precise. But for speed today, I'm kind of happy with that. And that gives me that column layout. Then over in this left-hand column over here, I'm going to add my navigation block and the site title. And in this right column over here, I'm going to add the query loop block. Right, let's start. So I'm going to start by clicking the little plus sign here. And then I'm going to search for site title, which is just there. And that'll bring in my site title. It's not quite the right size. So I'm going to just make sure I select it. And over here on the right, I can actually change the size of that if I want to. And I can also change the font if I want to. In fact, let's do that now. So click on those 3 dots. So we want Serif Pro. That'll get us closer to James's sort of title. Then underneath that, we're going to add the navigation block. Now, the quickest way to do that is just hit return, then type / and then navigation, and then hit return. You'll see it finds it up here for us. Just hit return, and that adds it into your page for you. And you can see it over on the right. Now, at the moment, it's just a page list. So we actually need to turn it into a menu. So you just click into the block itself and you'll see a little edit link up here. Click on that and that will now turn that into kind of a traditional WordPress menu. You'll see it listed over here in this page list menu over on the right, and you can actually now drag these around to change the order of them. You've probably noticed they're in completely the wrong direction. They're going horizontally at the moment. To change the direction of your menu, just make sure you've got the navigation block selected over on the left and then come over to the right, click on this little cog, and you'll see this orientation thing here. Just click on the down arrow and now our menu has gone vertically aligned rather than horizontally. This is one of the benefits of Gutenberg Core using Flexbox. So we've just got one little issue to fix, and that is the line height is too big on my site compared to James's site over here on the right. So let's come over to the stars option here, and you'll see there's this line height option just there, and you'll see it's 1.5 at the moment. Let's just reduce that down a bit until we're sort of happy with what we're looking like, and I think that's probably good enough for now. And then all we need to do is add these little social icons. What have we got here? We've got YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. So I'm going to click on the navigation block and I'm going to go insert after. So it's super useful, the insert after function, especially when you're dealing in columns actually. So rather than trying to drag stuff in there, now I'm just going to go / and social icons. That will add the social icons block, and then I just add the social icons. So what did I say we've got? We've got YouTube. Add that block. Now we can style these in a minute, and you click on it and then put your YouTube link in. I'm putting dummy links in today. And now I just need to change the size, the color, and the spacing. So to change the size, come up here and click on size, and let's go small. We want small ones. And come over here to styles again, and I want to change the background color, which is going to be white. So icon background, Let's choose white, and the icon color itself is black, so let's choose black. And now all I need to do is change the block spacing. So you can see you can drag it up, but as soon as you drag it down, it actually gets them smaller as well. And there we go, there's my new little small tiny icons looking pretty much identical to James's. So there's my left-hand menu looking pretty good. There's a few issues, like padding is certainly an issue. It's too tight to the edge of the page, so I'm going to change that. And it's also not sticky at the moment, but I'm going to sort that out once I finish up with this query loop block over on the right-hand side of the screen. So just to recap, here's James's website, which is a 3-column layout over on the right here, and you'll see they're different sizes, these photos. So it's not doing anything mathematically clever, it's just basically assorting them by size as you go down. So it's not like a sort of masonry layout. It is a masonry layout, but it's doing it primarily because the images are different sizes. So let's flick back to my website. Right, time to get out the query loop block to create this nice page layout over on the right. So I'm going to add a block, I'm going to search for query loop. Let's add that into the page. I'm going to start blank. There are some presets, but I'm going to start blank. And the one I'm going to choose actually is image, date, and title. That's going to have some extra stuff in there I don't want, but I can get rid of that. And the layout's wrong, so I'm going to click this little icon up here. That turns it into a grid. So now we've got our 3 columns. And if we look at the list view, we've got a column over here. That's our right-hand column. In there, we've got the query loop block. In there, we've got the post template. And in there, we've got the post featured image. That's actually the only block we want to keep. So we're going to get rid of the post date. Let's remove that one. Let's remove the post title. I'm actually going to make these square as well, because there is a certain issue at the moment with the query loop block, which is kind of cool as well. It'll align each row. So that does create some extra space, which we don't need. So I'm going to make these square. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the query loop up here, and I'm going to click on that little icon. And I'm going to say I want 9 images to come in, which is all I've got at the moment. We've got these extra gaps in here, which I don't really want. I found a strange workaround for this. So click on post template and come to typography. This is a bit odd, but then we can actually change the size here, and it seems to remove the gap. Not ideal, but I think that will be cleared up in a future release. The other thing I want to do is just change this pagination down here. It's a bit tight, which I'll add a bit of space, but it's also not centered. So I'm just going to click on this little icon here, and I'm going to justify it. Oh, there's one more thing as well. On the post featured image, it's essential that we click this little option here, link to post. So here's my site on the left. I've actually changed the orientation of the photos just so we can test out the sticky navigation. You can see at the moment when I scroll up, this navigation isn't sticking to the top, it gets lost. And the second thing I need to fix up is to add a little bit of padding. You can see this left-hand navigation here is too tight to the side. So let's go and fix up the sticky navigation. So it turns out that the sticky attribute that's coming in WordPress 6.2 isn't available when you're working within the columns block, within the group block, which I'm still asking the guys that are developing Gutenberg about. So as a short-term fix, I'm going to use this plugin called Sticky Block for Gutenberg Editor, which I've used before, which should work. It's a shame I can't just use Core. Not quite sure what's going on, but let's activate that plugin. And now we'll go back to the site editor and make that navigation sticky. Hopefully, all I need to do is add the sticky block and then put all my stuff on that left-hand column within it. So I'm going to add the new block. I'm going to go insert before again here. Where's it gone? Let's go insert before. And I'm just going to add the sticky block. So /sticky, there it is. And it's a bit like a container block, essentially. I'm going to chuck it in this left-hand column. Now I've actually put my content in here in a group, and that's kind of sorted out my padding anyway. So I'm just going to put all that stuff within that sticky block, like so. I'm going to try and drag it in there. Let's see if I can drag it in there. That should work. And now you'll see over on the right, we actually have some sticky settings. If I click on sticky, you'll see they're over here. But that should now, when I save this, automatically, let's go back to the website. And let's scroll up, and now can you see how that's sticking to the top of the page? Now you can also adjust with this plugin, you can adjust the size of this gap up here that you want it to stick to as well, which is one of the kind of nice reasons for using the plugin as well. So it's looking pretty good. The only thing I'm not quite happy with is the width of this first column. There's quite a gap between my navigation. Let's see if we can go and fix that up. One of the nice things about the columns block is you can adjust each individual column width, and you just do that by clicking on each column. You'll see I've clicked on the left-hand column over here, and over here on the right, you can see the width is 33.3, and if I click on the right one, you can probably guess it's 66.66. So let's adjust this first one. I'm going to take this down to 20, and I'm going to take the second one up to 80, like so. And now we have a much smaller gap on the left than we do on the right. And obviously you can play with those around to get the proportions that you want. Okay, so here's a look at my homepage. I think it's looking pretty good, very similar to James's apart from the image proportions. But when I scroll down here, you can see how my menu on the left here, this vertical menu, is sticking. I've actually increased the gap up here, so it's got a bit more room to breathe as I scroll. Looking really, really nice and elegant, great for a photography or portfolio website. Works fantastic on mobile as well. You see as I scroll down here, as I make it smaller, how it automatically flicks into a mobile menu. And these go into a nice one column layout. So the only other thing I need to do to finish this off is the single post page that shows that beautiful full screen photo. So this is James's single post page, and it just shows a photo essentially, but it also has the navigation over on the left. Here currently is my single post page. So I'm hoping this should be fairly straightforward. What I'm actually going to do is copy the existing page template for my home page. I'm just going to columns here, click on the three dots, and I'm going to just copy that. Now I'm going to reuse that on the single post template. So I'm going to go, where is it? Copy block there. And then I'm going to go back to my templates. I'm going to locate the single template, which is the single post template, which is just that one there. This is the existing one. I'm going to delete everything from here because I don't want any of this on my page. Remove it all. And I'm just going to paste in my existing one. Now I'm going to go into the second column here and adjust that. So to keep things simple, I am actually going to delete the existing query loop block so we can start from scratch. I am actually going to add one back. So just add back a query loop block. I'm going to start blank. I'm going to add this one here, the image, date and title. There's a lot of stuff in here I don't actually want, but all I need to do here is select one item per page like so. You'll see it's bringing in the title down here. I can get rid of that if I want to, and I can probably get rid of the date as well because we don't really want that. What I'm really after here as well is this pagination block down here. Let's just center that, shall we? Click on that little icon there and center that. So now dynamically we should have images coming in to our single post page, but being able to toggle them down here. Finished result, you can see I can click on this little pagination thing down here and it takes me elegantly to each next picture. So overall, I'm really, really happy with the finished result. I think for about 25 minutes it took me, actually less than half an hour. We've got a really interesting, beautiful portfolio website with a left-hand sticky navigation. Before I dive into it, this is future me, so I've already dived into it. I've just finished and it went pretty well. These are the things you're going to learn if you watch this video. First up, how to make a sticky navigation the right way, how to create pro post layouts, how to change your global styles, how to understand the new image ratios in WordPress 6.3, and also how to understand when it's okay to put content in your page templates. Right, let's start the clock. Over on the right here, I have the TechCrunch website. And over on the left, I have a blank website just running WordPress and the 2023 theme. I have added some posts to it, cheated a little bit, but fundamentally we've just got a fresh website, just freshly pressed. And over on the right, we have the TechCrunch website. So I'm going to try and turn this one on the left into something approximating this one over the right. I have a rough idea how I'm going to do this. I'm going to use columns on this front page, and then I'm going to use the query loop block to bring in the posts. This is going to be the navigation block over here, which you can align vertically. And I also, you'll see as I scroll up here, I need to make it sticky. There are a few different layouts over here on the right. You'll see here, we've got an excerpt in the middle. I think to start with, and because of time, I'm going to take this one as the one I want to try and replicate over on the left. Right, let's crack on. So I'm going to go over to my site on the left and click on Edit Site. And that will take me straight into the site editor. The first thing I want to do here is I'm going to create a brand new front page template. So I'm going to go to the plus, click on Add New Template, and you'll see here I can add a new front page template. This is going to be my new front page. I don't want to choose an existing pattern. I'm just going to delete that down. And now essentially I have a blank canvas where I can reconstruct the site with. It's pretty straightforward, I think. All we've got here is columns. We've got essentially two columns. The left-hand column, which is there, which is basically just going to be my navigation, which has to be sticky. I'm going to show you how to do that. And the right-hand column over here just contains posts essentially, but formatted in quite a complex way. We're going to use the query loop block for that. So let's start just by adding the columns blocks. I'm going /columns. That is a shortcut that you can use to add blocks. Now I can choose the layout I want. I'm going to need to change these proportions because they probably won't be quite right, but that's fairly close to the one I want. So I click on that, and that's going to set my columns for me. Actually, it's not far away. I'm probably going to reduce this one in size, which we can do here. If I just show you this, you can see you can actually come in here and change the width. So we're probably going to be looking at more sort of 20, 80, I guess. So let's do that now. So I'm going to change that one there. I would recommend, as I always do, to use the list view a lot when you're editing this stuff. And now I can change this one to 80. Again, we can finesse these as we go along, but that gives me my basic sort of column layout. Then all I've got here is some stuff in my left-hand column and some posts in my right-hand column. What I want to do to start with though, just to show you how to get the sticky bit working, because that's quite important, I'm just going to add some content in the left and right column, just some basic content, and then show you how to apply the sticky position to it. All we need in the left to start with is the site logo. I am actually going to add the site logo just so we got it done. So we're going to use the site logo block, and then we can upload a logo, which I've already got here actually. And there's my logo. You can change the size of it by making it bigger or smaller. It won't go bigger than it actually is, but that's probably okay. Then I'm just going to hit return and / navigation. Now I want the navigation block, and it's going to bring it in, and I'm going to edit this later, not now, but the one thing I will do now is just change the orientation so we can get that roughly right. Again, I'm going to want to add some padding to this. Now over on the right here, I'm just going to literally put a whole bunch of text in here, and this is just so I can test my stickiness because you see at the moment it's not sticky. It won't stick because I haven't applied the sticky position. Let's go back to the list view, and I'm going to show you how you apply a sticky position. So the trick to understanding how to do this is to kind of think that stickiness can only be applied within a container. Something can only stick within the container it's in. So we can't stick this column because it's not within anything. We only want this column, this content here to stick. So what we have to do is we have to group the content in that column first. So I highlighted them both. Click on the 3 dots and we're going to group it. As soon as you group it, you can now make that entire, essentially it's the column, but we're making the components within the column sticky. So you just come across here, make sure you have group selected, and you'll see this position option here in the customizer. And then you can just click sticky. And now that will make that content sticky. So you'll see as I scroll, that column, it looks like the column is sticky, but it's actually the content within the column that's sticky, but it's had the desired effect. Next up, I'm going to move on and add the query loop block over in this right-hand column, and that's going to bring the posts in. Let me show you again what we're looking at over on the right. Now the actual formatting I'm going to try and replicate is this sort of layout here, where I've got the post title on the left and the featured image on the right, because this is going to show you something really, really cool that you can do with the query loop block. Right, first up, let's get rid of all that content that I've just dumped in those. So I can multi-select these paragraphs here and just remove them all in one hit. And then I'm going to click on plus, and I'm going to search for the query loop block. There it is. It's just another block that comes with as standard with WordPress. And then I could start blank, but I'm actually going to click choose here because I know that there is a layout that is close to the one I want. And let's scroll down and we can probably see it. There's a few that are close, but that's probably the one I want. It's nice and simple. But the key bit here is it has my featured image and the post title in 2 separate columns, which is really powerful because you can do lots of stuff with this. I'm going to add it to my page. Here it is. You see it's not quite right. One of the issues we've got is the featured image is on the wrong side. But let's look at the list view because this is really cool. If we come into this, you can see, and what's cool about this is you can actually split your query loop, which is the components of your posts basically, into different columns. So you can see here we've got the main query loop block at the start, and then we've got the post template, and there's different settings in both. I've gone through those on previous videos. I won't dive too much into those today. This is the bit I really want to show you, the fact that you can have a featured image in one column and then your post title in another column, but you could put other blocks within those as well if you wanted to. And of course, because they're columns, if we want to switch them around, we can just switch them around like that. And of course, also because they're columns, we can change the proportions of them. So we could change this one on the left to, let's say, 20%, and we could change the one on the right to 80% again. And again, you can play around with these proportions to get the proportions you want. The other thing I really want to show you is that now in WordPress 6.3, you can fix the aspect ratio of your featured images in the query loop block. This is great because you don't have to worry about resizing your images now when you upload them. Just come to the featured image, come to styles, come down to aspect ratio down here. It'll probably be set as original, but then you can actually fix the aspect ratio. That means when you upload an image, regardless of the proportions, it's going to fit that size. So this is where I'm at. I've got the basic structure right. I've got the basic functionality right. Now it's just a question really of finessing things. The first thing I want to do is add a little bit of padding around the side here. You can see this TechCrunch has got quite a lot of padding. I probably won't add quite so much, but I'm just going to go edit site. And then literally all I'm going to do to keep things super quick, because I don't have a lot of time today, I'm going to select the columns block itself, come to styles, and I'm going to come down here. I'm just going to add a little bit of padding. Again, you can play with the padding settings. I'm working very quickly today, but you see how easy it is. It doesn't take long at all. And let's have a quick look and see how that looks. And there we go, that's a lot more accurate. Next up, I actually want to start to change the size of the font here and bring a few other elements in. You can see we've actually got the publish date and we've actually got the author as well. One thing I've quickly done is I've changed the height of my featured images but kept the aspect ratio so it's more in keeping with the ones on the TechCrunch website. Right, let's just go and change some of this font sizes. Just click on the font. Again, you can either just click in here or click on the list view to select it. But just click on the title. Let's close that down so you can see it. Click on the title, come to styles. Now choose the size that you want. You can either choose one of these pre-selected sizes here, or you can jump in here and choose the actual size yourself with different units available. Everything you probably expect. And then you can also change the appearance of it. So I've got this appearance setting here and I want mine to be bold so it's more in keeping. Not exactly right, but it's pretty close. Now I just want to add the author, the post author. So I select the block itself, then click on these 3 dots and go add after. Now I just hit / and then type post author and it will find that block for me. It's going to bring the author in. You can customize this, so I don't want to show the avatar. That's probably okay for now. Again, I can click into styles and I can make this smaller if I want to. I can do all the stuff you can normally do in fonts. I'm working very quickly though. And then after that, we probably want a post date. So again, hit return and we want the post date, which is there. That'll just automatically bring in the post date. Then we just want to squeeze these up a bit. So I'm actually going to select them both and group them. And that will let me easily change the block spacing between them. Now just go to styles and you can see this block spacing here. And you can scrunch those together so they get smaller. So I've just finessed mine a little bit. So I've made this one super light and this one bold. And actually for this text here, I have selected a black appearance here. You can have extra bold as well. And that's kind of more in keeping with the TechCrunch website. Just noticed something else I've missed, which is this little bit here. Can you see it's actually got the category of each post above it and it's green. So I'm going to just select the title block here and go add before. And we're going to see if we can add the categories block just before it and see if that's going to work. Let's go categories. Looks like it's going to work. Yeah, it's brought it in. So we just need to style this now. So I'm going to select it and go to the styles of that one. And it's going to be a link. So I want to make sure I click on that. I'm going to grab the color. Well, it's close enough. Grab the color and let's see how that's looking. And that looks pretty cool, doesn't it? I'm pretty happy with that. I guess, no, that's pretty good. We've got a little bit too much space between my category and the actual post title. So I've grouped them here and then hopefully using the block spacing setting, I should be able to bring those much closer. There we go. That's pretty much perfect. So this is where I've got to. My site is over on the left. It's looking pretty good. I need to sort out my navigation. But the main functionality in the design is done. This is the layout I was trying to do. You'll see these are slightly different, some of these, because they have, essentially that would be the excerpt block. So all I would do is add a third column within the query loop block and add my excerpt field into that, which I could do. I might do that at the end if I have enough time. But this is the layout I wanted to do. You see it's sticky, that's all working great. These all link off to the posts themselves, which is fantastic. They need a little bit of work as well. But fundamentally, the main structure of the website is built. Let's move on and just build this navigation. So there's really only 2 things we need to do to this, is get the structure right, as in the order of the menu items, and change the design a bit. Shouldn't take too long. Let's click on edit site at the top. First thing we're going to do is actually just fix up the order of these. You'll see also at the top here we have this bit of text. I'm going to add that as just a bit of text. That's fairly straightforward. So I'm going to click into the block itself and now I can edit this block. And that will turn it into essentially an editable navigation block. And you'll see all the menu items over on the right here. And these are all drag and drop. So you can just drag these up and down. If you don't want some of these to appear, you can just click on them. So I've got sample page here. Sorry, not click on them. Click on the 3 dots on the right here. And you can remove it. So it really doesn't take very long to get the structure right. And there's my new structure, pretty much right. I've missed a few out, but it's pretty much there. Now all we need to do is change the size of them, squish them together a little bit. And we're going to change the font so it's a bit lighter because it's too heavy on mine at the moment. So I'm just going to select the block itself, come across to the right here, and you'll see we've got our styles as we normally do. Actually, the first thing I'm going to do is just change the scrunchiness of them. So I'm going to change the block spacing. You can just change them here. You can see you can squish them up and down. So it might be okay for what you want, but you can also jump in here and actually set as either a pixel or the other units that you might want. That's probably enough. And then the other thing we're going to do is change the appearance of it. We want it light. I love light. There we go, it's light. And then we just need to change the size fundamentally. And that's probably too big, and medium might be too small. Yeah, so it's probably between those. So you can actually select one and then click in here, and it'll give you what you're currently using, which is really useful when you're trying to sort of visualize the size of these. That might be a little bit small as well. Let's try 1.65. And that's not too bad at all. So I'm pretty much out of time, but I'm very happy with how it's gone. Here's my finished site. You can see I've got the sticky working. I think the formatting is pretty close. It's certainly in terms of the spirit, there's a few little differences, but fundamentally we've got a TechCrunch replicable website in about 30 minutes, not using any plugins, just using core WordPress and core Gutenberg blocks. Well, actually I had 2 minutes left, so I thought it'd be fun to try and add this third column with the excerpt in the middle. And you can see it worked pretty much seamlessly. And in case you're wondering, it works great on mobile. So as I squish, keep your eye on the left one, as I squish this down, you'll see it all flexes perfectly for me because we're just using the query loop block and that automatically is responsive. And you'll also see that my navigation flips to a little mobile menu up here as well. So we're pretty much, there's a few tweaks, but there's pretty much out the box, we're happy with how it looks on a mobile. On the left is my brand new website. And over on the right, this is obviously Harry's website. So I'm going to start as ever when I'm building a WordPress website by creating some structure. So I'm just going to go back to the dashboard and I'm just going to create some pages. So I'm going to go add new page, and a few things I always do here. I'll get rid of that dialog box. I'm going to call this home, but a few things I always do when I'm starting out. I always fix the toolbar to the top. So it's up here. I always get out of full screen mode, which is just this little option here, so your menus come back. Oh, and the other thing I always do is go to preferences and turn off the pre-published checklist, which is just irritating. So, and now we can just publish that page. So all I'm going to do is create some pages, because the first step is always to create the structure. So all I'm going to do is write these pages in. So that's another page. So we've now got our pages listed up here, but they're in the wrong order. So there's two things I want to do to get the structure right. The first is actually to set the home page. So I'm going to go down to settings and reading, and up here where it says your homepage displays, it's currently set to show your latest posts. So I'm going to change that to a static page, and I'm going to select that page I built called home. And that means that will now be the front page of my site. So this is where we're going to jump into the full site editor. Up here we just need to click on edit site, and that will take me into the full site editor. And then I need to click on the W, which is slightly irritating. And then we'll come back to this page in a few minutes, but then we've got our templates. These are all the page templates that come with the 2023 theme. And these are our template parts. And the one we want to edit at the moment is this one here, the header one, because that's where our menu is. And there we go. And let's just click on the list view, which I recommend you do when you're working in the block editor, really, most of the time. It'll just make your life a lot easier. And there's our navigation block. And you'll see, actually, even though it looks like a menu, we haven't created a menu. All that's happened is WordPress has bunged our our page titles up there. So we're going to now click on select menu and click this option here, create a new menu. And now that'll basically start us to create a new menu. So all I want to do is find those 3 pages. So in this search box, I'm going to search for tour and then just click on it here to add it. It's actually hidden behind this little plus, which is a bit clunky, but you can sort of see it. And then shop. And then we've got the third one, which is listen. And we're just really not really worried about the styles at this point. All we're worried about is creating the correct structure. So now I need to go back and look at the site. I just want to check my work. So there's 2 ways to do that. You can click on W and then go back to the dashboard, or you can just get rid of everything in front of your domain name and go and look at it. That's going to get easier as well in the future, because at the moment it's kind of clunky. Okay, so now we've got these in the right order. I think it's time to start to think about styling. And the first thing I'm going to do is change the fonts, because he's got different fonts to my site. I'm going to use a cool browser extension, which is called What Font, which I'll link to in the description below, which lets you basically hover over any item on a website once you've activated it, and it'll tell you what font that site is using. This site is using Trooper_Jazzer in regular. And there is another website which you can then go to that font. If you can't get that font, then this website will give you equivalents. Mine's called Trooper_Jazz in regular. And if I start typing in here, we should be able to find it. Now you can choose any of these fonts. Let's have a quick look. And what we're really looking for is one that we know is available within the plugin I'm going to be using, or a free Google font. And I know that Poirot 1 is actually available, so, and that looks pretty close to me. So I think I'm going to go for this one here. Seems fairly similar to Harry's. I'm going to need a plugin for this. It's this one here. I'm just going to install that. So I can click on Customize Fonts, That will basically launch me into the customizer. And let's have a look and see if Poirot one is here. If I could spell, there it is. Yeah, it is here, good. And you see how the fonts are changing, and I'm pretty happy with that. That's pretty close. It's not exact, obviously, because it's not the same font, but it's pretty similar. And with this plugin, you can change actually more than I'm showing you today. You can get more control over each heading, and then there's a pro version as well where you can change the colors, but we can change the colors somewhere else. So it's going to be enough for us. That's pretty close. Obviously, the sizes are wrong, and we need to change the site title. But I'm okay with the actual style. It's a nice font. It's a nice font. Right, so before we change the size of these, let's just go off and change the color. And this is where we can use the site editor global stars, which are very powerful, but are kind of really hidden to find them. So you go back to the site editor, and it's this little icon up here. Can you see where it says styles? Just there. So let's click into that, close down that dialog box, and that will open up your global stars. Now there's lots here. I'm just going to show you what I need. In fact, let me show you one more thing. So you can actually style individual blocks, which is kind of cool. So let's say I wanted to style my buttons, I could do that here. For now, I just want to change the colors. So let's close that down. Let's go back to colors. And can you see here, these are global colors for the whole site. So I just want to nab the actual color here. And again, there's a good free browser extension that you can use, which is this one here called Colorzilla, which lets you pick colors on a website. There we go. And it will just copy it to your clipboard, and then I can jump over here and just paste those colors in. And can you see how the colors are changing here? And you can change headings. I think the headings are probably all right anyway, but let's change those. That's all saved. Let's go and look at the site now. And the colors look pretty good, I think. I'm pretty happy with those. Let's scroll up. Yep, pretty good. Not bad at all. So what I'm going to do next is I just want to change the size of this menu and pop in my proper site title, and then we'll move on to editing the actual homepage, Harry's homepage. So edit site. So I'm just going to write the proper site title in here, which is Harry Styles. And then I want to change the height of it, and the size of it. So I've got it selected. So here on the right, I can actually either put a custom size or choose one of these sizes. I'm going to try custom size at the moment. Let's see how we go with this. That might be too big, but we'll have a look in a minute. And then this one, I think, let's make that a bit bigger. And I'm pretty happy with that. That's not bad at all, actually. So let's stick with that. That's pretty good. Probably going to have some margin issues, and I want to do things like this little background hover thing at some point. But first, I want to set this page up. Now, at the moment, we've got some issues because if I put any content in this page, it's going to drop down. Let's just put some gibberish in here. It's going to drop down below where I need it to. Now, when I'm looking at Harry's page, it looks fairly straightforward in terms of we've got a columns block, and within this column, we've got a heading, a paragraph, a row block with some social icons, and 2 buttons blocks, which I'll talk you through. But the first big issue, we've got to sort this issue in terms of this page template, essentially. So I'm going to edit the page template. So let's click on the list view up here so we can actually see what we've got. And this is really easy because we can just delete the stuff we don't want because we're just editing blocks. So I'm going to remove the comments block. I'm going to remove the post title block. And so really all I really want is the post content block. I mean, what I could do, actually, I kind of want to keep one group. So let's remove that group. So we've just got our post content in the group. We've probably got a bit of margin issues with this navigation, but we're going to go and change that in a second anyway. And let's just check out and have a look at that. There we go. So we've got a bit of a margin issue, but we've basically got rid of our post title. We've got rid of a lot of the text up here, sorry, the white space up here. Let's see if we can get rid of that margin underneath the navigation. So let's go to template parts, header, and click on the list view so we can be sure what we're doing. Let's make this bigger so we can actually see this. Now let's see if we've got any options in here to change stuff. It might be in the actual row itself. Let's have a look. Yeah, so can you see how there's some padding that's been added into the row? Perfect. There's hardly any white space at all underneath the start of my page content. So I've added a bit more text into my page because we have an issue in terms of alignment. The text isn't going to line up. So if we add a columns block, it's going to be in the wrong position. So I'm going to go and change that. It should be fairly straightforward. Let's click on list view. I think in the post content here, we can probably set the content width. So I'm just going to set that at 900 because I don't want it full width really. I want a slight indent, whether that works or not. And that looks pretty spot on to me. Right, there's three more things I want to fix up, I think, on this navigation at the top here. The first is we have these underlines, which I want to remove. The second is we have these nice hover backgrounds, so I'm going to need a bit of CSS for that. And the third thing is on mobile, I noticed that Harry's site has the page titles that come underneath the title, whereas mine flips into a mobile menu. So hopefully I should be able to fix that just using the core Gutenberg settings. So we're going to start by removing these underlines. Now, the way I'm going to do this today, or try and do this today, is not a way I recommend you do it. I'm going to actually edit the theme file, so this definitely wouldn't be a good idea, but this is kind of a quick and dirty way to do it. And I'm actually going to go to theme.json, which is a really, really powerful file. It lets you do lots of things, and I'm going to cover this in a future tutorial. But one of the things it should let me do, I think, is remove that underline from the navigation. So if I just search for navigation here. So can you see here, we've got core navigation and then text decoration underline. I should be able to set that to none, and that should remove it. And I say this is a bad idea because if you make any breaking changes here, it could break stuff, which we don't want to be doing. And we might be able to do the site title as well, actually. Let's see here. So the core site title, text decoration underline. So we should also be able to set that at none. Essentially what this is, it's like an abstract version of your CSS file. Let's go and check that out. And can you see how the underline ones have gone now? Other thing that I've done quickly here is I've removed this focus underline dash that it was existing in 2023. So now when we hover over these or click on these, nothing particularly happens, just like Harry's site. Right, the next thing I'm going to do is I want to change the mobile behavior. So on mine, it flips into this little mobile menu. On Harry's, we keep these words, which I kind of like actually. I think they're more accessible than the mobile menu and more user-friendly in many ways. So I'm going to go back to the edit site, and this should just be a default setting in the navigation block. So let's click on template parts, go to the header, and we need to click on the navigation block itself. So the kind of fail-safe way is to use the list view again. And this is the section we're after here, the overlay menu. It's not the most friendly name for it. I'm just going to turn that off. So basically my page titles now are going to show on the mobile version of my site. Let's get rid of that. Let's go and check this out. So flip down, and there we go. They flip down below naturally. They're not exactly the same as Harry's because his align in the middle, but I'm okay with that. That behavior is pretty cool. Right, and the final thing I'm going to do is add some custom CSS, which I'm going to go off and create quickly. If you are looking to add CSS to a full site editing theme, you can use plugins, and I will install one just so you can see how to do this. I think there's one called Custom CSS. So I'm just adding it into my plugins, install it here and activate it, add CSS button here, link here, and then you should just be able to jump in here and add your CSS. And as I said, I've already written this CSS. I'm just going to update that. I will link to this for you if you do just want to copy this. And let's go and have a look now. And there we go. There's my nice little background hover effects that we've got. Now it's time to actually build out the page. So I'm going to start by saving some of these images, and I will just take screenshots of them. I think it's probably the easiest way for now. Let's grab that one. And I think when we look at this, as I said before, I think this is probably just 2 columns, fairly straightforward. So let's get rid of these paragraphs to start with. So we've got a clean page, just multi-select and remove them. Let's close down the list view, and I'm going to move that like that. So we've got 2 columns, so I'm going to start / columns. I could click on the block inserter up here, but you can do it more quickly by typing / then the name of the block you want to add. There's the columns block. I think we've just got 2 equal columns here. Pretty straightforward. And then in this left-hand column, we've just got, I'm not sure that's going to work. Oh, it's going to work. How clever is that? Just got Harry's image, his photo. Now the homepage title isn't going to show when we publish this. The thing I also want to do here is I actually want to make this wide width, I think, because that will then respect the page width that I've already set. And then over here, we've got Harry's house, which looks like a heading to me. So I'm going to copy and paste that in. Let's see if we can do that as a heading. And I think that's aligned centrally. And then we've got this, looks like a heading actually, underneath. Let's paste that in. I want to change that because it's pasted in as a paragraph. Let's see if a heading 3 is going to look any good. Probably a bit big. So maybe a paragraph block would have been better, and we can just size it. Let's see if we can make that a little bit bigger. That looks close enough. We can always change this stuff later. Let's see what happens. So it's still a bit big, I think. Let's just make that a little bit smaller. And that's a bit small. So let's jump into a custom size. That was too big, so let's go 1.5. And it looks like it's bold actually, so let's just make that bold. And actually that looks, let's leave it like that. That looks all right. I think we're close enough. Let's just change the windows. That's not bad at all. And then this is quite interesting. These social icons, I think we can probably just do as a row block. So /row, add the row, and then I'm not going to replicate these all. I'm just going to add some of these. And then we're going to use the social icons block, which is a core block. So you add the block and then you add the social icon. And I think we've got Amazon, which we do have. I'm going to change the color of these in a few minutes. So we're going to add a few more. And then what we also want to do is change the color of them. So click on the social icons block in the list view. I want to change the icon background color. And the other thing I want to do within the columns block, I want to align all the content to the middle. And that aligns Harry's house and all that stuff. And now I can add my, let's close that down. Now I can add my buttons. So /buttons. And I'm just going to pop in the text first. So I'm going to choose the outline here. And that's pretty good. And I'm going to create a radius like so in the buttons block. Let's select buttons there. Again, the list view is so useful. Add another button and you'll see how it keeps the styles that you've introduced in the first one, which is fairly new. And then the other thing I want to do, which I forgot to do, is I need to align them. So let's just align them. Again, click on the top level buttons block to see that. And that all looks pretty good. Harry's actually got a bit more space up there. So I'm just going to add a little bit of space. The quickest way is just to add the spacer block in like so. And let's change the height to 30. Just adds a bit more space. Then we've got a bit of space under here as well actually. So I'm going to add the spacer block in underneath. So there's my page. There's Harry's page. From the top, looking pretty good. We've got those menu items. That's pretty nice. Again, the font's slightly different, but it's pretty close. There's my version on the left. There's Harry's on the right. My buttons, I prefer Harry's buttons really. Always got to hover on those, I haven't done that. Then we've got this option here. Pretty close, and that's pretty close again. So I've just noticed that Harry also has this stuff at the bottom of his page, which is a newsletter sign up and some social icons. So the first bit of that should be straightforward. We should be able to add the row block and then add some social icons in within that block, and we're going to align them in the center. So then we've got this newsletter sign up, which obviously is a bit trickier. There is actually a plugin that I'm going to try and use for this, but I saw it the other day. In fact, I reviewed it the other day, and it's for MailChimp. So if you are using MailChimp, there's a block called Gutenberg Newsletter, which is a free plugin. And then you just click on the plus sign and search for newsletter, and there it is, and add it into your page. Now, quite cool because it's all blockified. If I click on the list view over here on the left, can you see how it actually adds the top level block within, and then put some columns block within it. And there's the newsletter field. So we should be able to make some changes here. What I want to do is actually get rid of that icon to start with. We don't want that, and we probably want to center it. So what I'm going to do, let's see how this works. I'm going to add 3 columns so it's in the middle. We don't want any words at the top. This is just a paragraph block though, so we can remove all this text. That's what's quite nice about this. Let's remove that one as well. Let's have a look at this. So there's mine on the left over here, and there's Harry's on the right. Not bad, not great. It'd be nice if this plugin let you actually have a border on the newsletter field and style it a bit more. And the final thing I want to have a go at is Harry's footer down here, which is quite interesting. I might be able to do this in rows using 3 row blocks and changing the background color of each row. So let's see if that will actually work. That concept will actually fly. So let's go template parts. Let's find the footer template. Here we are. And let's just see what blocks we've got at the moment. Now currently this row block is within a group. I'll actually move this row above it and then delete the group. So all I've got is a row block here. And now I'm going to add that as a background to that row. And I'm going to change the text color. And I'm going to change the link color and scroll to the bottom. Yeah, that's pretty good. So we've got this row block now working. We probably want to align this text to the center, and the padding's a bit out as well. So it looks like it's got some styles built into that row block, which is styling the footer. So let's check that out. It's nice now because all we've got to worry about is the row block. Yeah, cool. So can you see we've got this padding at the top, and the bottom works as well. So we probably want to add a little bit of padding. I probably want to be precise around this. I'm going to guess a little bit at this point. 15 to the top and 15 to the bottom. Now what I'm thinking, that looks pretty good, doesn't it? What I'm thinking is these down here, let's grab the color of one of these. We might be able to use, let's grab the color of one of these. We might be able to use the row block to actually add those in as well, which would be very cool. So if I go insert before, and I'm going to change this to a row block. This feels a bit kludgy now. I'm going to add the spacer block in. and I'm going to change the height to, let's say, 10 pixels. And I'm going to change the background color of that row block to that color I just picked. And that looks a bit big, doesn't it? So let's change the spacer, because the spacer block is what's actually providing the height. Let's change that to, I don't know, it looks about 5 pixels. Let's save that and have a look at that. Let's see if my theory is going to fly. Do you know it is? That is going to fly. It's a bit short. So let's just, I think we want to double that. But this is going to work. Template parts, footer, there's that. And actually the spacer block is what's giving that row the height, which is there. So I'm going to change that to 10. Then what I'm going to do for speed is I'm going to duplicate that block by going duplicate. I'm going to drag that one above it, and I'm going to change the background color to that yellow color. So let's go and nab that color. You can nab that yellow. There we go, got the yellow color. And now if I change the background color of that yellow, now the other thing to say is these blocks might have a bit of inbuilt margin on them. So let's, don't count our chickens yet. Let's go and have a look at that. Scroll to the bottom. Look at that. That's pretty cool. That's very cool. So we've actually pretty much replicated. It's not quite the same in terms of the height, but that's fairly quick stuff. So here is the finished result. Just a reminder, my attempt is on the left, Harry's website is on the right, and I think it's pretty good. I'd give myself a sort of 7 out of 10 in terms of what I've been able to achieve in about half an hour. So from the top, here's the header. I've managed to replicate his nice styling up here and the hover style on the buttons. That's kind of cool. This was actually probably the most complex thing to get right. And full site editing, slightly complex, but once you get the hang of it, it's incredibly powerful. And then down here, this was fairly straightforward. We just used a columns block. And in this right-hand column, we just had the heading block, the paragraph block, the social icons block, and the buttons block, which I styled by having a no-fill option. Remember, I added the fonts. I changed the fonts using that fonts plugin. And then this section down here, pretty close. He has this nice hover on buttons, which I didn't have time to complete in the time, but that's okay. And actually, I kind of like mine. It's got a bit more space under the buttons, but everything about Harry's site, his text is a bit more condensed, which I really like. And then this is probably the weakest area of mine in terms of the styling down here. This newsletter sign up, I just had to use a plugin, which is a cool plugin, but it just doesn't have quite the options out of the box that you'd need. So you'd have to do a bit of extra CSS for this. And then the thing I'm probably most proud about, because it's kind of a creative way to do it, is these bands down here, just using the row block and the spacer block. There's probably a more elegant way to do this than I've done it, but in the time, I think it looks pretty good. So overall, I would say I'm pretty happy with what I've been able to achieve in the 30 minutes I had.
Hey Jamie, this is Matt from Stellar WP. I would love to see you rebuild the charity water donation page with Cadence and Give WP. I think that'd be pretty cool.
So as usual, when I'm recreating these websites, I've just got 30 minutes to do it. My website is over on the left. It's just a blank version of WordPress. I do have some plugins pre-installed though. And over on the right is the charity water website, the actual website I'm trying to recreate. It's got some interesting challenges in it. The first is it's got this donation form. So I'm going to presumably be using the Give WP donation plugin for this, but it also has monthly recurring payments. So we have to work out how that works. And then we've got this section down here. This is quite challenging, primarily because we've got this little, it's very faint, but we've got this very faint blue background, which is sort of intersecting these two boxes. I'm fairly confident I'll be able to do these info boxes down here quite easily. The team behind Give WP and Cadence have told me they pre-installed all the plugins I'll need to recreate it. So let's start the clock and start the challenge. So let's start by creating a brand new page, which is going to be the homepage of my website. So I just go add new page, give it a title, and then I'm going to use some of the settings that are in Cadence just to make that a blank page. So I'm going to make it full width. I'm going to disable the header and disable the footer. Right, let's publish that and go and have a look at it now. And here it is. So that's my new shiny blank page. And then very quickly, I'm going to make that the home page of the website by going settings reading and setting that page as the front page. So what I'm going to do next is create my donation form using Give WP. And so I'm going to go to add new form here. And then I'm going to choose, I think this is a multi-step form. So I'm just going to activate that option there. Now I'm going to tailor this form. So I'm going to go and pick this color over here on the right using like so. That's my color I want, I think. And I'm going to paste that color in here. There we go. There's my new color. I'm going to use the system font and I'm going to disable the introduction because actually all I want is this payment amount over here. So this needs to say choose an amount to give, and I don't need any text. I'm going to remove all that text here, and the continue button needs to say donate, so I'm just going to change that. The payment information I think is all okay. The other thing I want to do though, I think in donation options here, is I want to turn on recurring donations as an option. We're going to go for monthly here and a custom amount. That's absolutely fine. Right, before I go any further, I'm just going to insert that form into the page just to make sure I'm absolutely happy with the design of it. Obviously I can go back at any time and redesign it, but I just want to test it out here. There's my form, and let's see how close I got to it. I'm pretty happy with that. I just need to get rid of some of this text, but apart from that, I think I'm absolutely fine. Right, let's start by building out the page. Now I'm going to use extensively today the Cadence row layout block because it has some extra stuff in here that I want to show you. One of the main things it's going to allow me to do is get more control over the layout over and above the core blocks, but also do things like add backgrounds to them, which at the moment you can do, but you need some custom CSS. So it's going to help me work quite quickly. So I'm going to start by adding my site logo in this left-hand row column, and then in this right-hand one, I'm going to add my login, log out block. So those two blocks I've just added are just core standard blocks that you get within Gutenberg, but I'm using the Cadence in alliance with them so I can actually position them. Now this one here, I want to actually align this one over on the right. So I'm going to just choose that setting there, and I think that should be good to go. Let's go and check that though. Have a look at the page. There we go. So now we've got our fairly basic layout that we want to. Next up, I want to do this section down here. I think I can do this with a row block and just essentially 2 columns within it. Let's go and have a go at that. So I'm going to go edit page, and I'm going to use the Cadence row block for this again because it will just give me extra levels of control, which I'm going to need. So I'm going to choose the row layout, and we just want 2 columns. And in this left-hand column, I think all I need to do is add my donation form. So let's select my donation form, and that will bring that form into that area for me, and hopefully I've got that right. There we go. It will fill the space. It's looking a bit small at the moment. Now the other thing I want to do here is add that background image. So I'm going to choose row layout, and I'm going to go background settings, and I'm going to choose a background image, which I should have already pre-uploaded for speed. There's my background image, and you see how it takes up the space of the whole row. And then in this right hand column, I've got some text to write. One thing I've just noticed about the Charity Water website is how this happens on mobile. Just keep your eye on this text up here. You see how this actually will flip to the top of the screen. Now naturally, when you add content to columns, it will flip to the bottom. So I need a cute way to fix that up. Now I could do this with a bit of CSS wizardry, but actually Cadence has a nice feature built into it that will make it super easy for me to do. So what we can do at the section level with Cadence is we have this visibility settings down here, so we can hide on desktop, hide on tablet, or hide on mobile. So what I'm going to do is duplicate this section essentially, put one over here and one over here, but I'm going to hide the right one on mobile. So this will only show on the desktop. I'm going to copy the entire section here, copy that block. I'm going to come over here and go insert before, and then I'm just going to paste that block in there. So I've got exactly the same content, but with this section, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my visibility settings, and I'm going to hide this one on desktop. Now you won't see it in the editor, but you'll see when I actually go and view this page now, we'll only see one version, like so, as we want. But when we actually flip to the mobile version, we'll see that now go seamlessly to the top. Next up, we've got this section along here, and this is an interesting aspect, which is just this bit here. Now Cadence actually has a negative bottom margin, which the core Gutenberg blocks don't have yet. Hopefully we will have at some point, but we should be able to do that with a negative bottom margin. So I'm going to make extensive use as the row block again here, and I'm going to choose this setting here, and I'm probably going to change it slightly because we can just drag this around. I think probably 60-40. Then I'm just going to fill out some text. So I've added some text, and now I'm going to add a background color to the row. So I'm going to pick the background color by using my little color picker again over here on the right. And then I'm going to go over to my section layout here, and I'm going to add that blue color as the background. And then I'm going to go background settings, background color, and I'm just going to pop it in as my new background color. So now we've got that blue background color. Now I need to jump into the section here and also change the background color of each section, which is kind of white really. So I'm just going to choose a white background. You'll see that white is white now. Jump into that section. Again, using the list view quite a lot over here on the left. Go to background settings and changing that to white as well. And then I just need to add a little bit of padding in each of these sections. And we want to go into padding margin, and I'm going to link these just for speed today. I want to just put about 30 pixels of padding around each one. Again, padding and margin, I'm going to link them here and then just choose 30 pixels. And that's got my base sort of layout set here. Now there's a few other things I want to do. The key one is this bit here. Now I think I can probably do that by a negative margin. Oh, I also need to put a little border around each of these sections as well. So I'm going to jump into each section and go to border styles, and I'm going to choose a border color. I'm going to choose the color. Actually, I need to choose a border well. So let's just link these, and I'm just going to put this as 2, actually probably 1 pixel would be fine. And that color is probably all right. I'm not spending a lot of time on this, but that's probably about okay. And again, go into this one, and I want to go into border styles, just copy that border color across, and I'm going to choose my border width again. I'll link them all, and I'll just choose 1 pixel. To do this little effect here, I think I can probably utilize the negative margin functionality that's built into the Cadence row as well. So I'm going to have a go at this. What I'm going to do is actually just select both of these sections. Let's just check the list view and come over here to padding and margin, and I'm just going to give this a bottom margin of -90. Now again, you probably won't see this in the editor. Indeed, you won't see this in the editor, but if I view the page, can you see how now we've got this nice cutout? The blue is actually doing what this site does. Next, all I have to do is these little 6 boxes down here. The way I'm going to accomplish that is I'm going to combine the core Gutenberg columns block. I'm just going to choose 3 columns here, this option here, and within each one I'm just going to put the info box block, which comes as part of the Cadence blocks, and that will just give me the setup very, very quickly. You can see over here, you can change the presets, and you see how they're changing over here. So you could accomplish this just using core Gutenberg, but this is faster for sure, and it also gives you a few more controls and a quicker way to get there. So I'm just going to finish adding the next row. I'm just going to finish off by adding these little social icons to the footer. I think the way I'm going to do this is actually add the row block, the row layout block that comes with Cadence, and I'm going to choose just 1 column because I'm not going to worry about this stuff down here. And I'm going to add our social icons in here, but to start with, what I'm actually going to do is to add some borders, this little border along the top, and I think I can do that in the row block, which is quite cool. So border width top, I'm going to give it 1 pixel, and I'm going to give it a color of, it's kind of light gray, so let's go light gray, and there's my little border too, which is quite funky. Now hopefully that will be full width if I select full width along here. There we go. And now I just need to put my social icons, which I'm going to do using the social icons block. So just add the block, and then you click the plus sign to add the actual icons. I'll add the first one, Twitter. There it is. Now I want to align this to the left. I'm going to go to section, and I'm going to go flex align settings, and go text alignment, and I want it horizontal. And there we go. Now it's aligned over the left. I need to link it. I put a false link in there. The only other thing I want to do with this, I want to change the icon color. So the actual icon color is kind of gray. Let's choose that gray color, and the background is white essentially. And there we go. There's my Twitter icon, and I'm just going to repeat the process. So here's my finished result. My attempt is on the left, and the screenshot of the site is over on the right. And I think it's pretty good. I would probably give myself a 7.5 out of 10 for this one. We've got all the main features in place. The style's pretty good. We've got a working donation form. We've got a mobile version that flexes nicely on mobile, all just within the 30 minutes that I gave myself. So not a bad attempt. Okay, so over on the right, this is the website I'm going to try and recreate. This is Yoga with Adriene. And over on the left, we have the freshly installed 2022 theme. Now I'm not going to build the entire website. I'm going to do 3 key pages, which is this home page, stuff on here, recreate this header, because that's quite an interesting header. I'm going to try and recreate all the fonts that they're using. I'm going to get as close to possible as the style as I can. I won't get exact, but hopefully I'll get fairly close. And then there's 2 other pages I want to try and do, and that's the blog page here. So it has a customized blog page, which I'm going to show you how to do, which can be useful for you, and also this calendar page, which is quite interesting. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I think it's quite interesting because when you click on each of these little calendar items, it opens up into a YouTube playlist or video. And I think that's quite an interesting challenge to see if we can recreate that as well. So if I was going to approach a rebuild like this, there were 3 main elements that I think about. Number 1 is the structure. Number 2 is the design. And number 3 is actually building out the pages. So let's crack on. So the first thing is the structure. So basically, I just need to create the pages that are on this website. I'm not even going to put any content into these pages. All I'm going to go is to my dashboard, and I'm going to go add new page like so. And then I'm going to create these pages. Now, at the moment, I'm not putting any content into these pages whatsoever. Think of them just a bit like placeholders that we're going to populate later. Okay, so I've quickly gone off and created all those pages. You can see them all listed. The next thing I want to do is to set my home page. So that's just dashboard, go to settings and reading. And this option up here, your homepage displays, we're going to change it from your latest post to a static page. and we're just going to set our home page as our static page. Now we're not going to set our post page here, because we're actually going to customize that in a slightly different way later on. So if I save changes and go back here now, we'll see now that the home page is just that blank page that I created. Right, now it's time to start doing some of the designy stuff, the more interesting stuff in a way. Right, so the first thing we want to do is change the fonts, because the fonts are wrong. Now we're not going to get the exact same fonts, but we'll get close, and fonts that look much nicer. Now, to find out the font of any font on a website, there's a great browser extension called What Font, and I'll put a link to it in the description below for you. You just install it and you'll see a little icon in your toolbar up here. You just click on that, and then you just hover over any text on the web page, anyone's web page, and it'll tell you what font they've actually used. So you can find out exactly what fonts other websites are using, which can be really cool if you're trying to emulate somebody else's design, or you get inspiration from another website. Now, you won't potentially be able to use that font on your site if it's a commercial font or a custom font, but you'll probably be able to find a Google font that's very similar to it. So you just find the name. So in this example, this is Pointer Old Style Display. And then there is a website, which I will link to in the description below for you, where you can actually find out a similar Google font that you can actually use. You just type in the name of that font here, click on it, and it'll tell you some alternative fonts that you can actually use on your sites. So this one is looking like Baskerville would be a good sort of similar font to use on my site. Now, to use that on your WordPress website, the easiest way is probably to use a plugin, which again I will link to in the description below for you, which lets you add your own fonts. And the one I'm using today is called Fonts Plugin, which seems really good. I've used it a few times. It's free. There's a free version and a pro version. Here it is. Again, I will link to this in the description for you. Let's activate this. The free version is pretty cool. The pro version gives you more control, and also control over things like whether it's loaded locally. So if GDPR is super important to you, you might want to look at the pro version. And then simply all we do is go to the WordPress customizer here, and this is where you load in the fonts that you want. So I know that the paragraph font I'm going to use today is Roboto, and then my heading font is going to be Baskerville. Okay, you've got some other settings in here as well, so you can do things like change the font weight. Now the pro version gives you more options in here as well. So my font's looking better. I can further customize it within the pages as well. Now the other thing I probably want to do with this one is I want to change the navigation fonts. I think I'm going to use Roboto again, but I'm going to use condensed, and hopefully with this one, yeah, I can go light. So you see how my navigation font along here closer to that font. Now again, I can change the size of these fonts within the actual navigation block, which I'm going to come on to. But at least now we have fonts that are looking much closer to the site that we're trying to emulate. Right, I'm going to jump forward slightly now. I'm going to add some content into this home page. Now I'm doing this primarily so when we're actually editing the header block up here, we can see whether we've got things right. So let me just add some content very, very quickly. Now I think this section over here, this hero section, we can pretty much just recreate using the standard cover block with a few columns within it. So I'm going to add the cover block to start with. I'm going to set the background. Now the background isn't exactly right. We're going to make that exactly right in a few minutes though. And then instead of writing a title, I'm going to add some columns in here, because essentially I think what we've got over here in the Adriene website is two columns with an image in the right column and some heading block and a paragraph block in this left-hand column. So I'm going to add the columns block, and I think it's 50-50, so that one there. I'm going to make it full width, so I make sure I select the top level cover block up here, and then select full width option here. Now you might not see this represented massively within the editor. Actually, that's pretty good. And then over on the left, we've got a heading block to start with. So I'm just going to click the add new and add the heading block. And for speed today, I'm going to copy and paste this text in here. Then under there, we've got this paragraph block. Well, this is going to end up with multiple paragraph blocks. And then underneath that, we've got this other heading block. So I'm just going to hit return, hit / heading, and then chuck that in there. That might be fine. And then over on the right here, we've got this image block. So I'm going to save the image of Adriene first. So I'm going to go save image as, and I'm going to save this image to a file on my desktop, I think. Pop that in there. And then I'm going to click on the plus sign here, find the image block, and then I'm going to upload that image that I just saved into that column there. Okay. Now the other thing I'm going to do here is I want to set this image and the content to align within the middle of that block, and that's pretty close. The other thing I want to do actually quickly is get the right color. So I'm going to use the ColorZilla browser extension, which again I will link to in the description below, to find out the right color, and then I can just pop that in over here. So make sure you've got the color cover block selected, click on the little cog icon, go to color here, then click on that little section there. Click on this little icon here, and then just paste your new color in there, and you'll see the background color of that block will change. Let's update it and go and check it out now and see how we're looking, how our page is looking compared to the real one. Okay, so you see how that hero section is actually not massively away. This text needs to be bolder, and we need a bit more space up here. But the real reason I've done that now is to show you this enormous bit of white space here, whereas this one butts up to the navigation. So that's what I want to show you how to do next. And there's a really cool tip. Right, now we're going to use the power of full site editing to change the layout here. This is the beauty of full site editing, that we can change this stuff. We're not really restricted by any theme constraints. We've got a big issue, which is we've got this page title, which we don't want to show at all. And we've also got this separator, and we've got loads and loads of white space. And you'll see on some of the other pages, we're going to have an issue with that as well. So actually, we could just edit the page template. Now, brilliantly with full site editing, we can do that. So I'm going to click on Edit Site up here in the admin toolbar. Just to note, you can only do this functionality if you're using a block theme like the 2022. If you want to see more block themes, check out my other videos because I cover them quite a lot. Now, at the moment, you see this actually loads in the page editor. We can see all our templates by clicking on the W up here and clicking on templates. And here's all the templates that we can actually edit. This can get confusing. This is going to be simplified as full site editing develops. At the moment, it's still a little bit confusing how you access this stuff. And then you've also got, so you've got templates and you've also got template parts. They're your two main things that you can edit. Your template parts primarily really are things like your header and footer, which are used in multiple templates. So if I click on header here, I'm going to edit this in a few minutes. Here's our header, and that's what's running along the top of our site. But we edit that in one place, and then that applies every time that template part has been used. So that template part will be used in most of these pages here. For example, this page template here. So what we can do now is we can jump into this one just by going to site, because this is our homepage, and we can start to delete some of these elements in here. Now, if I click on the list view, you'll see what we've got. Now, it is a little bit confusing because we've got groups, and within groups, we've got other groups. But essentially, we want to leave the header alone, but we've got our group in here, and within there, we've got some of the stuff we don't need. And actually, we don't want any of the stuff here. We don't want our post title, our featured image we don't want to show because we're going to use the cover block within the content. The separator block we don't want to show, and we don't want any space down here. All we really want is this first block of ours, our cover block, to be the first block in the page. So we could just go in here and start to remove these like I'm doing here. I'm just using the list view, clicking on the block itself, clicking on these three dots and going remove each, like so. That's certainly one way to do it. And we're starting to see how we're getting rid of some of this space here. We'll get rid of this spacer block as well. You'll find out though that we're not actually going to get to the point where this actually looks perfect, but that's what I'm going to show you in a few minutes. Now what I could do, the alternative way to do this, probably the quicker way, is just to remove this whole group block so we've got no content whatsoever, and then go the three dots and go insert after, and then literally all I want in here really is the post content. Now post content and page content are exactly the same thing. They're just going to bring your post or page content into that space. So all we've got now is the header block, which we're going to dive into in a few minutes, and then we've got our post content block underneath it. There are some further settings for your post content block, which we'll go through potentially in a few minutes, depending on how this looks. But what we're going to do now I've updated that, is actually go and look at that page. So I'm going to go back to the dashboard, go to my pages, and I'm going to find that new home page that I've created, and we're going to view it. And there we go. And it looks much, much, much better, but we've still got this issue that we're still not butted up to that navigation at the top here. Now, this is the big tip that I'm going to show you. And this took me a while to work out how to do this. It's a little bit nuanced in terms of how you do it, because if I go to edit page, you'll see we've got no blocks within the page. So there's no blocks creating the space within the page. And if I go to the editor, you'll see we've actually got no blocks from the header to the post content. So theoretically, this piece of content should be butting up to that navigation. But what's actually within that navigation is there's some margin put into it, which we're going to get rid of now. Now, this is where we use template parts. I want to edit the header template part here. Here it is. Now, the list view is vital to your success in this. And you'll see it's actually added it within a group. Now, the group has some inbuilt styles, I think, coming from the theme, which is adding some stuff. So I'm going to get rid of that by just dragging this row block above it try that again, above it. And I'm just going to delete that group block. So all we've got is the row block. Within the row block, we've got another row block with our site logo, which is here, which I've just uploaded. A site title, which we're going to get rid of. We don't want that block, we just want the logo. And then we've got the navigation block here. But the key bit is, now you can click on the row block here, click on your block settings. Let me make this bigger so we can see. And now in the block settings, we can change some things about this row. For example, we can do things like make sure the padding is 0 above and below, like so. We can also make sure the margin is 0 as well, especially below. And you can do that by clicking on these 3 dots here and going to margin. That will open up some more options for you down here, one of which being margin. And now we can jump in here and actually set that margin to be 0. If we want more precision over this, we can actually set the top and the bottom margin. So we might want a bit of top padding actually, or something like that. So let's add a bit of padding at the top. So you can play around with these values to try and get the design that you're after. Now, if we go back to the dashboard and go back to our website, we should see now we've got that nice, let's make this bigger so you can see that we've got much closer to what we want to achieve in terms of this cover block now is flush with the navigation above it. Right, next up, I want to fix up the header because we've got some serious issues going on. We've got the wrong logo, so we're going to upload the correct logo. These pages are also in a different order. Ours are alphabetical. That's all that happened because we haven't created a menu yet, and your pages will be alphabetical by default. They've also got on the Adriene website these nice little social icons, so we're going to try and add those as well. So let's dive into the site editor and start to fix those things up. I'm just going to start by saving this logo over here on the right. In fact, let's just take a screenshot of it, which is a cheat way to do it, but I'm going to do it that way. So I'm just taking a screenshot and we can upload that now in replacement of this one. So I'll just click on this block here and you'll see a replace option and I'm going to upload it and hopefully it's on my desktop somewhere. Should have saved it to my desktop. There it is. That'll replace that. Now you can resize this just by dragging this up and down like so. So resizing logos is fairly easy. You can punch in the exact image width over here on the right if you click on the block settings panel, but I've just done it by eye. The next thing we want to do is these menu items are in the wrong order. Now at the moment, as I say, they're just adding them in alphabetical order because we haven't actually created the menu yet properly. So we're going to create a new menu and that allows you to add these items very quickly. Now this is one of the reasons why I added these pages to start with, because now, because they're created, I can click on the plus sign and just search for the pages themselves and add the page titles. And if I hadn't ever added the pages first, you would see that they wouldn't exist, so we couldn't add them. So I'm just going to add a few more. There's my blog. And what else have we got? We've got free yoga. I had that one. I did. I don't think I did search. Did I do search? I did do search. And then let's add this one here. Cooler. And then we've got one more, which is that one there. Okay, and that'll add the menu items for us. And again, let's click on the list view so we can actually see what's happened here. So now we've got the navigation block with all these page links within it, which is great. And the other thing I probably wanted to do here is add my social icons. So I'm going to go insert after, and I'm going to go / social icons like so. Now I might change these to a different way of doing this later, but let me just add one for now. And let me also fix my toolbar to the top of the page. Sometimes you'll find this toolbar gets in the way of what you're trying to do. So if you fix it to the top of the page, click on these 3 dots here and go top toolbar, just pops it up here, which makes it much easier to work with. Now I'm just going to add a Facebook one to start with, like so, and I click on it, and this is where you'd actually put the link to your Facebook page. You'll see it's not actually the right color. Let's see if we can change these here. Yeah, we can change the color. So to do that, you click on the social icons main top level block here. Okay, so I've changed them to be a darker gray color. Let's just add one more. And again, social icons, let's add a YouTube one. And there we go. And you add it and then you click on it to add the actual address of your YouTube channel. I'm just putting in some fake information at the moment, and there's our social icons. So let's go and check out the site again. Let's see how close we've got in terms of that header. And that's, I mean, it's not exact, but it's pretty good and it looks really nice, doesn't it? I mean, we've taken the 2022 theme and we've changed it a lot. There's a few things I want to do to this cover block, which I'll actually do within the cover block itself. Just 2 things really, I think, actually. Let's do that now. So I want a little bit more space at the top and I want to make that bold. And then I think I'm pretty happy with what we've got. I'm fairly content. As I say, it doesn't look exactly the same, but it looks pretty good. So I've just highlighted that text and made it bold. And then again, the list view will make this a lot easier for you. I'm going to click on the columns block And within the columns block, within the cover block, I'm going to go insert before, and then I'm just going to add the spacer block, so / spacer, and add a bit of space. Again, the spacer block, you can actually change the height of this just by clicking on the block settings panel and changing the height. There is actually one more thing I think I wanted to do. Let me just go and look at this though. I think, did we want to change? No, that's fine. I think that's pretty good. Our image is a little bit bigger, but actually I like that. Text is pretty good. The header's looking pretty smart. It all works on mobile out the box because we're using Gutenberg and it just kind of works. There's one big issue, which is this one. You see how the image of Adriene flips to the bottom, whereas on the other site, it goes to the top. Now this is an issue with Gutenberg, which I'm going to be covering, not in this video, but in a future video. At the moment, Gutenberg uses a thing called intrinsic design. So things just kind of happen naturally for you, things like the column stack. And the text now in future themes will automatically change the size, which is cool. But things like that, you see how the image goes to the bottom, we don't really have any easy control to do it. So I will be addressing that in a future video. But for now, it is a slight problem unless you use a third-party plugin where you can control it, which I'm trying to avoid as much as possible for this little demo. So there we go. We've kind of got the header sorted. We've got this nice cover block. We've reduced any gap in that by editing the page template. Let's quickly finish up the rest of this page. It's pretty straightforward stuff with the block editor, so it shouldn't take very long. You see, we've just got these sections. They're really nicely designed though. So we're going to start by editing underneath the cover block. And I'm just going to copy and paste a lot of this text for speed. So let's scroll down. And we're going to grab this heading here, and all I'm going to do is click down here and I'm going to go / heading, hit return. That'll pop the heading in, and I'm going to align that centrally. I also want to add a bit of space above that heading, so I'm going to add the spacer block above it like so. Now I could change around with these gaps here, but that's probably all right. Underneath this, we've just got a paragraph block, I think. So copy and paste that. So quick way to do this is to put your cursor at the end of the heading, hit return, just paste it in, and we want to align that to the center. Next up, we have this video. Now I don't have a video, so all I'm going to do is grab that as an image actually today, just for speed. Normally you could upload that using the video block, but let me just chuck that underneath here. And now we've got a nice pseudo video. And then underneath this, we're going to add the buttons block. So I'm going to go / and then buttons to add the buttons block. And this says yoga with Adriene. Sorry if I'm spelling the name wrong. YouTube channel. Like so. Now then we need to style that buttons block. Click on the block settings icon up here, and that lets us style that button itself. First thing we need to do is set that as the outline style, and we probably want to change the size to small, and that's close enough for me. Then this is pretty straightforward. It looks like we've just got 2 columns. So let's save that image again to our little folder in there. And what we're going to do is come underneath. Oh, we also need to justify that buttons block so it's centered, but we're going to go underneath the buttons block. We're going to go insert after. You see how quickly you can build this stuff. We do actually want some space under this, so I'm going to add the spacer block first and then insert after again. You'll find using the list view to insert after is often the safest way to do this stuff. The list view, I can't emphasize enough, is incredibly useful. And I think we've just got 2 equal columns here, which I'm going to add. And then in the left-hand column, we have an image block. So let's add the image block, and we're going to upload that image we just saved, which is that one there. There's the image. Then on the right-hand column, I think it's pretty straightforward. We've just got a heading block here. Put the heading in here. Now this will style better once we look at it on a bigger screen. It's looking a bit strange because we're working in the editor and it's quite small. I'm not sure why that's so small. We need to make this columns block full width, I suspect, or wide width. That's better, isn't it? Yeah, and then we've just got some text under here, like so, and then under that text we just have another buttons block. Nice and simple. So again, hit return / buttons, and this says read more about Adriene. And again, we are going to style that by clicking the outline, like so, and we probably size it. If you want even smaller, you can click on those little icons there, and you can change the size of it either in pixels or these other values here as well. That's very, very small. There you go. You can sort of play around with those to get whatever you like. That's sort of close enough for me. And then finally, we've got these other sections down here, which I'm not going to go off and add because they are super simple. You can see that's just a heading with an image block, and that's just an image block, and that's just a paragraph with a heading block above it. Let me update this so we can see how this is looking and go and look at that page. There we go. That's a little bit too big, probably, that image. But it's pretty good. It's not far away. Yeah, that image could be smaller, but I can change that very easily. In fact, let me just show you how to change the image size, just in case that's useful for you. Just pop down here and you can literally drag it like so. We can also center it if we want to, so we can align it center. You can also change it over here as well. If you want to be more precise about your image dimensions, you can change it over there. Okay, so that's the home page. Let's just compare and contrast how they're looking. That's gone into menu mode. That's better. Okay, so there's mine on the left. There's Adriene's over on the right. And if we scroll down, there's mine. That's still a little bit small. It's not quite right, but you know, it's pretty close, and it looks really nice to me. I think it looks really nice from a design point of view. I've obviously not finished it off, but that's enough of the home page. I think that gives you enough to hopefully you can see we're pretty close. There's two other pages that I want to show you though, and the first is the blog page, this one here, because it has a custom blog layout which we can do very easily with the full set editor. And the second one, and the final thing I'm going to show you today, is how to emulate this kind of calendar view. Not a massive fan of it, as I said before, but it's quite interesting. You can click on these and it takes you to the yoga videos. Right, next up it's time to customize the blog page. Over on the left is our blog page, looking very empty at the moment. Over on the right is Adriene's website. I'm not a massive fan of her blog page. I don't think it's the most beautiful thing in the world. And the images are pretty average, let's say, but let's show you how to customize it, because once you know how to customize the blog page, you can pretty much design it however you like. Now, you could do this by editing the page template, but there is another way which I want to show you, because this way you can actually do on any theme. It doesn't have to be a block theme to do it. So we're going to go edit page, and we're simply going to use the query loop block to do this. So click on the plus sign, search for query loop. Now, the query loop block is one of the most powerful blocks. If you want to see more on it, I've done a longer tutorial. If you check out my channel or subscribe to my channel, you'll be able to find that. So when you first load in the query loop block, you can either choose a pre-existing one or you can start from a blank one. I'm going to start blank today. And then you've got a few options here. We definitely want an image, so I'm going to choose this option. And that's going to dynamically bring your post into that page, into that sort of layout. And as I said, there's lots of different layouts, preset layouts you can choose. I kind of think this looks nicer than Adriene's, but I am going to change it. So the first thing we need to do is to make it a grid layout. It's a very simple way to do this. Click on this little icon here for grid view. The second thing we need to do is change the number of columns. So click on your block settings panel here, just change the columns to 2. The third thing we want to do here is get rid of this date. Now you can remove it from one and it will remove it from all of them. The other thing we want to do here is change the size of these titles. So just click into the title. You might want to use the list view at this point, and you can change the size of these. There's these preset sizes, but you can also pop in your own sizes by clicking on this little icon here. I'm kind of all right with that. I think that looks okay. Let's just close this down. And the other thing that we want to do here, let's just make sure we've got query loop selected, is you can actually change the number of posts that are coming into your page. And you can do that here by items per page. You can change that to whatever you like. I'm going to change it to 6. And that means I've got 3 rows of 2. There's a few other things you can do in here as well, which I'm not going to do today, but check out my other tutorial on that. That should be fairly close to what we need here. There we go. We've got a few differences. Our images are a little bit bigger, but actually I think they look nicer. And we're missing the title, because remember on our page template, we removed the titles from all our pages because we wanted the first block to sit flush under the navigation. Now we could go off and create another page template. There's a quicker and a bit of a kludgy way to do this. You can actually just add a heading in here, like I'm doing here, and make that your H1. And then I'm going to center that, okay, like so. Now I can resize these as well over here on the right, or put in your custom size and play around with these to your heart's content to get the right size that you want. The other thing to finish off this page, I think I just want to add a bit of space to the top. So I'm going to add the spacer block and size that to 50. Then I'm going to add a bit of space underneath. I'm going to duplicate that existing one and just drag it underneath like so. And that should be fairly accurate. It's not exactly the same, but actually I kind of prefer ours in some ways. We can also customize the pagination down here if we want to, but I'm okay with that. And the final thing today is to emulate this interesting challenge of this clickable calendar, which again, I'm not a huge fan of. There's probably a more elegant way to do this, but it's quite interesting. So you see the calendar on the right, you click on any of these items and it takes you to the YouTube channel for those videos. In this case, it's a playlist. So there is a cute plugin I found that enables you to do this. And you can use it in lots of other applications rather than just a calendar like this. But what I'm going to do is just nab that photo. In fact, let's go to edit page here first. So we are going to need a plugin for this, but I'm going to first buy, in fact, no, let's not do it this way. First, I need to grab the image over here. So I'm just going to do a screenshot of that image quite roughly. That's probably okay. And then we're going to add the plugin to our site, the one we're going to use. Again, I will link to this in the description below if you want to check this out. The one I'm using today is Draw Attention, and it works really well in my tests. Let's just find that. And we're going to add that to our site. It's this one here. Let's install it. So the way you do it is you create your image maps. And the image maps have been around forever on the web, but this lets you create them very easily. You'll see when you add it, you get this new menu here that says Draw Attention. You go edit image. I'll just do one of these boxes. I'm not going to do them all because that would be very tedious for you. Let's make this bigger. And over here on the right, this is where you upload your image. So I'm just going to upload the one I've just saved. And then over on the left, this is when you start to add the image maps to it. So I'm going to change the background color because otherwise it's going to have a gray background to it, which is just this setting here. But this is the key stuff here, clickable area. So that will open up there. I'm not sure why it's opened up so big. Let's make that smaller so we can see it. There we go. And then you simply, I think this is going a bit strange because of the screen I'm showing this on, but essentially what you do is you just draw these in like so. Let's do this. You can see how I'm just clicking and dragging. So I'm doing that way first, and then you can drag these corners. Hopefully you get the idea of what I'm doing. Now you can imagine this is going to take a little bit of time, but you'll get better at doing it than I am. There we go. But what's nice about this method is, as you'll see when I publish this in a second, these actually show up when somebody mouses over them, so they get some feedback. There we go. Not perfect, but you get the idea. And then the key bit down here, you go action, go to URL. Let's make this bigger so you can see it. Go to URL, and this is the URL that you put in. So let me just nab one of these YouTube URLs from Adriene's actual YouTube channel. You pop in your URL there, and I want that to open in a new window. And then you update it over on the right. And what that will do, that will generate a shortcode for you, which you can then use on your site. Can you see here that here's the shortcode? And obviously you can go off and create all your clickable areas here on the left. So I've only added one, but if you want to add another area, you just repeat the process. Then I'll copy that shortcode, go back to our calendar page. We want to go to the edit screen, and we're going to use the shortcode block. And all we're going to do is put that shortcode in, and hopefully now, when we view that page after publishing it, there's our little box. And can you see how it highlights it when you actually install it? When you actually hover over it and click on that, and it's going to take you off to that video playlist. And here is the finished result. My attempt is on the left and the original website is on the right. And I think it's gone pretty well. I think mine in many ways looks pretty good, and in some ways looks better than the original website. There's the Adriene website. I didn't quite finish the homepage, but I got down to there, and actually, that's pretty spot on. And again, just using the 2022 theme and highly customizing it. And this really shows the power of full site editing and where this stuff is all going. And the blog page, let's look at that. This is my blog page. This is the Adriene blog page. Again, not identical, but pretty similar using the query loop block. And in many ways, actually, I think mine looks nicer. And the final thing that I did today was this calendar page using that plugin that I showed you. And again, I think mine's a bit better because we have some interaction going on, some user feedback when they hover over it. Good morning. It's kind of incredible what you can do now with just naked Gutenberg and a good block theme. If you look on your screens here, on the left is the website that I've just built in 30 minutes replicating this Austin Kleon blog over on the right. And it features some really cool stuff, like we have this sticky navigation along the top. We have a query loop block populating this middle column. If I squeeze it, you'll see how the first column is now the middle column. This is using Flexbox. This is all built into Naked Gutenberg. And also you can see we've got custom fonts. So we've got exactly the same fonts that we've got on the Austin Kleon website. So I'm going to show you how you can find out what other fonts websites are using and then add those fonts into your own sites as well. So this went really, really well. I'm going to show you from start to finish. I'm going to start with a blank WordPress website. This is what I finished up with. All the links to the important stuff are in the chapter markers below. There is also a link to a brand new block theme and site editing course that I'm running. The April course is just sold out, but there are some spaces for the May course. Hope you enjoy it. Let's roll the intro music and start the clock. So over on the left is my website. Over here, this is just running a blank version of WordPress, freshly installed. Over on the right, we've got the Austin Kleon website that I'm going to try and replicate. It features quite a few interesting things like this sticky navigation. It's got this this custom 3-column layout as well, and it's got these posts. The full post is showing in the middle column here, and you'll also see when I resize this how the middle column actually flips to the top. So I'm going to have to sort that out as well using the Gutenberg Flexbox control. I'm going to be using the columns block, so I should be able to do that hopefully. So let's crack on. So I'm going to go into my dashboard, and the first thing I want to do is just create the structure. So I'm just going to go off and create these pages along the top here by going pages, add new, and I'm just going to create these as blank pages just so I've got them as placeholders. And I'm just going to grab some of these images here because I'm going to need some of these. So now we're going to start to build out the site, and I'm going to start from the top and work my way all the way down here. And I'm going to start with this top section up here, and what I want to do there is basically get rid of what we've already got, I think. So let's go to editor. So dashboard and editor. This opens up the full site editor. I'm going to start with a new template, and I'm going to add a new front page template. That will just give me complete control over the front page. This will now be the front page of my site. And so I'm going to start by adding the row block here, and I'm then going to group that. So let's open up the list view and group that. And I'm going to group that for a number of reasons. Probably the most important is I can make it sticky. So within the group block, you can actually make that sticky. Let me show you this. There's a position sticky here. Okay, that means that will now stick when I add other elements into this page. And then I'm going to start to add out this layout. So I'm going to start by adding my site logo. And I'm going to upload that. It's a wee bit small, so I'm going to make it bigger. And you can make it bigger just by dragging it like this, so you can adjust it by size. And you'll see we've got a group block, and the first thing I want to do is create a background to that. So I select the group block using the list view over here. On the left, go to background, and I'm just going to set that as black. So now we've got the nice black background. Now we can put other things within our row block as well. And the first thing we need is navigation. So I search for the navigation block. That's going to add it in. Now at the moment you won't be able to see it, so just make sure you change the text to white. Now the other thing I want to do in my group block is I want to come here to layout and make sure it's not using inner blocks, uses content width. Otherwise it'll squish it to the content width of the site. So next up I just want to edit this menu. So I've just selected page list over on the left, come down here to edit and click on edit. And now I can actually start to edit this menu. So I can change the order. So the order I want is blog at the top. So you can just drag and drop these as you want, about and contact. So that's the right order. And actually the styles, I'm going to change the fonts in a minute, but the styles, they're not too far away actually, are they? It's a good idea to check things just to see how you're going. It's not too bad at all really. We've got a few issues in terms of the spacing, but we can sort that out. And the other thing, we've got this big space at the top here. So let's go and get rid of that big space at the top. Come to global styles, which is top right. Now the 2023 theme, which is the theme I'm using at the moment, actually adds some padding to the top. So if I just select 0 to the top here, it actually gets rid of all the padding from the top of the site. So when we go back now, we should have no padding along the top. You see that, how it's now sitting flush right to the top of the screen. So now we can carry on and add these social icons along here. So let's go to edit site and let's look at the list view because that's the easiest way to see this stuff. Come down to row and you'll see in the moment in the row we've got the site logo and the navigation block. So let's go insert after. This is often an easier way to do this, and then we just want to type / social icons, and it will find those social icons for us. It's actually put them in the wrong place, so let's just drag them down here. In fact, let's drag navigation up. That's probably easier. And there's my social icons. So now I just need to add those social icons. So I click on the plus sign and I'm going to add the social icons block. Then I'm going to search for Twitter. I'm just going to add a few. Now I'm just putting in dummy links today, but you would obviously put in your links to your proper social media. I'm going to style them in a minute. So I'm going to click back on social icons, make sure I've got the block settings open, come to this little icon here, and the icon background is going to be black and the icon color is going to be white. You can also change the size of these, and I need to change the spacing as well actually. So let's come back here and just change the block spacing. Now at the moment you just drag it up and then you drag it down. You can also click in here, these little icons, to change it by pixel as well. But I'm okay with that sort of spacing I've got there. But let's have a look. There we go. You see how it's all bunched to the left, so I need to space those out. So let's go back to edit site, and I'm going to jump back into this front page template, and all I need to do for this is go to the row block here, and you've got different options here. You see it's justified to the left, so I think probably space between items, and that will space it out nicely. Again, the row block uses Flexbox. That's how we get these nice controls in here. And let's check this out and see how this is looking. There we go, that's pretty good. I'm going to add a bit of padding to the left and the right probably, so they scrunch in a little bit. In fact, let's do that quickly. I come to here, you'll see I can add some padding, and I don't want to apply it to the top or the bottom, so I click on this little icon, and that just lets me apply it to the right and also to the left. So if we come back to the Austin Kleon site, you'll see we've got 3 columns, and they're not equal width. The middle column takes up more proportionally than the other columns, so that's the sort of layout I want. So I'm going to jump back into my template, click on the list view. It's going to make it easier for you, and then I'm going to go insert after. I use insert after an awful lot. It just makes it much easier rather than trying to click on the block inserter and drag stuff across. And then / columns. Again, / columns is the shortcut, and that will give us our 3 different layouts. That's the closest one. You can still change it if it's not quite right. That's the closest one. And now essentially what we've got to do is build out this layout here, and these are posts. So for this middle column, what I'm actually going to do is use the query loop block. That's going to automatically bring my posts in. So I select the middle column, either just clicking on it here or using the list view, and then click add block, and then I'm going to search for query loop. The query loop block is very powerful. It's this one here, and I would suggest you start blank. It's going to make your life a bit easier. You can amend all of these anyway, and probably this one here is the closest we want an image. And there we go, we've got an image, and we've got the date, the post title coming in. It's not quite right though, because in the Austin Kleon website over on the right, we've got the post title, and then we've got the post date, and then we've got the featured image, then we've got the content, whereas in ours it's not quite right. But we can jump in here and we can just move these around. So let's check the post title at the top, post date underneath it, and then under that we actually need some content. So I'm going to go insert after, and that's not quite in the right place, but we'll move it in a minute. And then I'm going to go / post content, and that'll bring the content of that post in. There's not very much content in this post. And then over on the left, I'm just going to drag that down to the bottom, and there we go. We've got, that's looking pretty good actually. We've got our posts coming in automatically. Oh, the other thing you need to check at this point is just exactly how many posts you want to come in. So there's a couple of ways to do this. The easiest is just click on query loop over here on the left, and you want to click on these 3 little icons, sorry, this little icon in the top toolbar, and this will let you say how many posts you want per page. I'm going 30 because if you look at the actual Austin site, he's got loads of posts on this. It will paginate at the bottom of this as well. You'll see you've got a little pagination block. So at the bottom, when your posts run out, you've got this little pagination block, which you can style. So if I click on this, I'm just going to justify that center, and there we go down there. And again, I could put that in a row block, and I could style it and all sorts of other stuff as well. But for today, I'm absolutely fine with that. So let's have a look. There we go. And can you see how my top bar is now sticky? Which is very cool. And there's my middle column. Right, the next thing we need to do is just these 2 side columns, which actually are pretty straightforward. I think this is just going to be a text block, an image block, a text block, an image block, a text block, and a few image blocks. So let's do that quickly. For speed, I'm going to grab this text here, and let's add it in, just that content. And then after this, I'm going to add, let's make this bigger. I'm going to add an image block. I'm going to have to add some padding to this in a few minutes because it's not quite right. I think it was that one. I can always change it if it's not. Yes, it was that one. It's a wee bit big, so I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller. And you'll see to get the 10th anniversary, yep. Gift edition. So you can also do what's called a soft return in here if you want to control the lines. You just hold shift and then hit return. And that means it won't create a new block when you're adding new text. And then we want listen to the audiobook trilogy. So let's save that and go and actually no, there is one more thing I want to do. So in the columns block here, this left hand column, I just want to add a little bit of padding. So select the columns block over on the left. Make sure you select the right column. You see we've got left column, middle column, right column. Select the left column, click on that little icon, and then you can come down here to padding, and you can add some padding to it, to the top, to the bottom, to the left and the right. For speed, I'm just going to add padding to all those things here. Yeah, that's pretty good. I shouldn't have centered them. Shouldn't have centered those images. They don't need to be centered. And this text is a bit wrong as well. It's too big. So let's go and fix that up. That's probably decent enough. Right, now we just need to do this right-hand column, which is pretty straightforward. And all we've got is a paragraph block, Austin's face, some text, and some social icons block, and then a subscribe to my newsletter. I'm not going to probably add this. This is a Substack thing, but I will add the other stuff. Again, if you're using MailChimp, you could use the MailChimp block for this. There is a free MailChimp block. So I'm going to add the paragraph block and about the author. Now, it won't look aligned at the moment because I've added some padding over on the left. I might get rid of the top padding actually. But let's go and add about the author. So we just want about the author. Let's make that text small. And then we just want to add an image block in here. Hopefully I've got Austin's picture. There he is. And again, you would want to add the alt text. I'm not adding alt text at the moment. I would go back and do that. In fact, I've added 2 about the authors for some reason. Let's get rid of that one. Okay. And all we need underneath this one here is this bit of text, which links off to another page. I'm probably going to try and do another page as well. So select the image block and I'm going to hit return, and there we go. There's that bit of text. And then after that bit of text, we've just got these social icons, and we're going to use the social icons block for that one. So hit return /social icons. And then I just need to add the icons. So what's he got? Let's have a quick look. He's got Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'll add those. Let's make this a bit bigger. And we want to change the style and the spacing. So use the list view here just to make sure you select the social icons block itself. And then come over here to this little design icon, and we want to change the icon color, background color to black, the icon color to white. The key really with these is to make sure you select the social icons block over here. That means the styles will apply. The styles will show, and then the block spacing again, just move it up and down, and you can adjust the size, or you can jump in here and change the pixels more precisely. I want these pretty tight. Let's go 10 pixels. So let's save that. Go and have a look at the website. Hopefully it's looking fairly close to the real website. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Let's have a look at the original website, my website. Now you'll see my sticky nav is working. My posts are now automatically coming into this section here. So if I created a new post, that would be the first post on the page. I'm really happy with that. We need to sort the fonts out. The fonts are wrong. So let's go and see what fonts this website's using. And there's a great add-on to Chrome you can get called What Font. It's this one here. And it's just an extension, and you click on it in the browser and it'll actually tell you what fonts they're using. So they're using Oswald for the headings, and it looks like they're using Laura. You see, you can just hover over the font and it tells you the font that site is using. It's a really cool little add-on. See, it's here. It's just this little icon here. It's called What Font. So we want to add Laura and we want to add Oswald. So we're going to use a plugin called the Create Block Theme plugin, which is my favorite plugin for adding fonts now to a block theme for sure. It's actually built by WordPress as well. And then we go to Appearance and then Manage Theme Fonts. And you can add a Google font or a local font. So I want a Google font because both those are Google fonts. So what did I say? Oswald. And I'm going to select all fonts, all font weights and variants as well. And then I add it to my theme. Once you add it to your theme, it'll be available in global styles, which I'm going to show you in a second. And then I want Laura. And again, I'm going to add all variants of that. You could select individual ones if you wanted to, but I want all of them. And now I just need to add it to my site. So I'm going to go back to Editor, to the site editor, click back into the template that I'm editing. And this is the key bit here. This is the secret sauce. We want to go to Styles, click on Styles, and then to Typography. And here we can actually change the font for our site. So what did I say? I think text is going to be Laura. Laura, there you go. That's changing. And headings, we want to be Oswald, I think I said. I hope I said it that way around. Have I got it the wrong way around? That's Oswald. Yep, that's perfect. There we go. And actually the sizes aren't too far away. You can actually change the size as well here. So I think the text might want to come up a little bit. And there we go. There's our website. And I think that looks, it's hard to see both together because they're flexing. Actually, we've got one really important thing we need to fix as well, which is this. So on a mobile, you see how my sidebar here, this column here, the first column, it becomes the first column on the page, whereas on the Austin Kleon website, it's the middle column that becomes the first column. So I'm going to fix that out. I'm going to fix that, and then we should have pretty much a working site, a working blog site. And I'm going to actually try and use ChatGPT, some AI magic, to see if I can create this effect of the middle column is actually the first column on the page, because the Gutenberg columns block, which is the block I'm using, actually uses Flexbox, and I think I should be able to get some CSS to be able to fix that up. What I did, I went to ChatGPT and I asked it, I said, I have a 3-column layout built with WordPress Gutenberg. Write me the CSS code so that the middle column is the first column when viewed on a mobile phone. And lo and behold, it did it. You can see down here, here's the actual CSS that it generated for me. So all I need to do now is add a class name of .column-2 into the column itself, and then add this CSS, and hopefully, fingers crossed, that should work. So I'm going to use this simple CSS plugin here just to put my CSS code into, just so there's a nice easy place where I can actually access it. So I'm going to activate this, then go to add CSS. Then I'm just going to take the CSS that ChatGPT gave me. That's the class name I actually want. So you can hopefully work out what this is doing. This is just going to say, right, make this column here, whichever column I give this class name to, the middle column. This is a Flexbox control here. So let's update that. Then I'm going to go back to my editor, and hopefully when I add that class name to my middle column, so let's click on the list view just to select the middle column here. Select the middle column, come over here to the right, and then click on advanced, and then come down here to additional CSS. Just pop that class name in here without the dot. We just need it like that. And let's go and check it out and see if that's actually done the magic for us. So now when we resize this, can you see how the middle column is now the first column on the page? So if you ever need control over your columns blocks with Gutenberg, use ChatGPT to do its wizardry. Right, so here's my site at the moment, looking very, very close to the original. I think it looks really great. I've changed all the fonts. I've actually gone in and changed the fonts up here as well, so they're more accurately reflecting on the actual website. And I've also changed the fonts up here in the navigation menu. Looks really cool. We've got the sticky nav. However, we have one big issue, which is the other pages templates are still got the old page templates. So we need to go and fix those up. So what we need to do, because this is currently how you have to use the sticky nav, we actually have to come into the template that we've built. And I'm just going to copy that block there. Then I'm going to go back to my templates here and go into the page template, which is this template here. Then I'm going to get rid of this header template in a minute, but to start with, I'm going to go insert after, then I'm just going to paste my existing group block in there, get rid of the old header template. I don't want any featured image on this page, so I'm going to get rid of that. I don't need any comments as well. I'm not eliciting comments on this page. That's pretty much all I want. And let's save that and go and have a look now. So now hopefully when I go and view the site, click on books, we've now got our blank nice page. If I edit that page and pop some content in there, let's just grab some lorem ipsum. Let's just check this looks all right. I'm just going to put some stuff in here and update it. Let's just make sure that's working. Because I built the page template, it should bring the post content into that page. There's books, and there we go. It looks fantastic, and actually I really like that. So there we go. There's my finished website. The front page is done. The internal pages are done. Obviously they need some content, but in terms of the design and the layout, I'm very, very happy. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this one, if you can hit the like button now, it would be amazing, because it makes a huge difference in terms of how many people actually get to see this video. And also every time you do hit that like button, our cats get a little treat. If you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button and you'll be notified every time I release a new one. Keep well, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.